time to do this.
Who's calling us already? Can you hear that, Art?
Yeah.
Hey y'all, it's Grace Field here, performer extraordinaire, and you are listening to Rock On Radio. Rock On.
Can't answer. All right. All right, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rock On Radio. I am your host, Danny Coleman. We're coming to you live from COARadio.com here in Hightstown, New Jersey. You can also hear us live right now on SocietyBitesRadio.com, BYTES, SocietyBitesRadio.com, who also carries a show at another point throughout the week, as well as all of our other affiliates who I wish to thank. Right now, I can't name all of them off the top of my head, but
Give me 5 now.
yeah, right. I can. Asbury Music. Oh, we got a phone call already. There we go. Hello, welcome to Rock On Radio. Who's this?
This is Melissa Jane.
Oh, hello, Melissa Jane. Was that you calling about 30 seconds ago?
It was, yes.
Ah, yeah, you beat us on air. Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. Now, where are you calling me from?
I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Oh, so you're in Los Angeles. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Out there on tour, huh?
Well, actually based in Los Angeles, yeah.
Oh, okay. You're based in LA. All right. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I got the press release right in front of me. I think I wouldn't make that mistake. But, all right. So you have, you've had all kinds of things going on. You had a gig last night, right? With your Lady Zepp?
Yeah, I had a show at the Santa Fe Swap Meet, and we did 3 hours of solid Led Zeppelin songs, and it went down really well.
That's a beautiful thing. I love it. Led Zeppelin's my favorite band of all time.
They're fantastic.
They are number one. But you also have an original metal band. Is that Sin? Is that how that's pronounced? SYNN?
Yeah, I have 2. And so yesterday I had Final Gravity come and perform one of our songs that we're going to release in February. And Tuesday, I'm performing with my other band, Sin, which is, spelled SYNN.
Okay, and I see you have an EP coming out somewhere around fall of this year.
Yes, I have two albums, actually. So
okay.
One with Final Gravity and one with Sin.
All right, so you're kind of spread out a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Keep them busy.
Yeah. Keep them busy.
Okay.
I have the same drummer in both original bands, so it's kind of we're all kind of linked together in all of this musicality.
Okay, that helps. That helps.
It does.
Keep the same drummer, at least part of the rhythm section, anyway.
Right.
So tell me, how does a young woman from Melbourne? You're from Melbourne, Australia, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How did you become such a first of all, a Led Zeppelin enthusiast, and then how does that translate into your metal band?
It's a interesting story. So actually, from Australia, I originally went to Japan, and I had a contract there where I got signed to be in like a Japanese pop group, R&B pop group, and I sang there for 1 year. And people that I worked with on that project were based in Los Angeles, and so that kind of brought me out to Los Angeles. And I've been singing and performing since I was about 5 years old, and so I had a good reputation when coming to Los Angeles, and someone that had already established a Led Zeppelin band just hit me up knowing about me to see if I'd be interested in doing her Led Zeppelin cover band, and I was, and I wasn't as familiar, and this was about 11 years or maybe 10 years ago. I wasn't so familiar with the more obscure music of Led Zeppelin. I knew more of, the radio hits, and as I started to do my research and learn songs, I just discovered how amazing their repertoire is, and I really fell in love with it. And I fell in love with a lot of the blues that they do as well. And I did that project for a short time, but ultimately met the drummer that I now have in Lady Zepp, and some other people that I perform with on and off. But I ended up creating my own Led Zeppelin band with the drummer from that other one. And we created Lady Zepp, which we have now been doing, a strong 9 years together, and really loving it. And actually, Final Gravity opened for Lady Zepp about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And they thought I was great. And the drummer actually wanted me to sing on a solo album he was doing. So I did that. And then a few months later, his singer decided he wanted a career change. And they had this show booked to open for Fate's Warning. And so he asked if I'd be able to learn their album in a week. And I was actually in Australia at the time. And I was only arriving back in the US the day before their show. And so I said, sure, because that's what I do.
Talk about cramming. Cramming for an exam. Yeah, go ahead.
Right? So I learned their album, and we did this show. It was at the Avalon in Los Angeles, and it was a really great show. And ultimately, they then asked me to stay on as their permanent singer. And then my band, Sin, I had been with for about a year, I think, at that point too. And they needed a new drummer. So then I said, okay, well, I'll be your singer. Can you be the drummer of my band? And, ever since, that's how it's been, and the rest is history.
Beautiful. I see you have a show with Sid coming up at the Viper Room in LA, huh?
At the Viper Room. Yep. So we're excited for that. It's going to be the first show of the year, kind of kicking off 2019. And it should be really fun. There's a few bands. I think that it's a good lineup. I got to find where it is.
Okay. Actually, my engineer Art is on your website right now, because we're going to play a tune from that from your website, or one of the songs
cool.
you're supposed to play.
We can do that, right?
When this, I think we have that. We have that technology, or are you asking for permission so we don't get sued?
No, I just want to ensure that there's a one song on your homepage. Is that what we can use?
Venom.
Venom?
That's the album, Venom. The song is, what's your latest single that you have out now? Day of Wrath? Is that what that is?
That's it. Day of Wrath.
What's that, sorry?
Day of Wrath. Is that the...
Day of Wrath. Yes, that's a great one. And that one, we did the video clip at a tostada factory, which the guitarist at the time and the bass player that currently have their cousins and their family own this huge tostada factory. So that was a really fun one.
And I see you're working with John Coswick on this. This
yeah,
as well, right?
He's amazing. He's really amazing, and he's been incredible in making the songs come to life. The mixing is such an important part in finalizing your songs for albums, and it's just unbelievable. He's a pleasure, and I want to just continue doing a lot more with him in the future.
And I see, and he's got a very nice pedigree behind him. Creed, Puddle of Mud, Godsmack. He's been out there. So, all right, how do we find you? What are your websites, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of websites, but if you go to melissajanemusic.com, it links to every other band that I do. Okay,
fantastic. melissajanemusic.com. There's links. We're putting them up on the Rock On Radio page, I think, as we speak, right? Mm-hmm. Claire, our producer Claire, is doing that. That's great. Excuse me. I also see, before I let you go, that with this EP that's coming out, you're doing a little remake of Drowning Pool's Bodies, huh? Are you gonna do you do what I call Cookie Monster metal?
Yes and no. So we definitely have like the heavy drums, and the bass player does some really nice, integral screams here and there. I like to have a few screams every now and then. It's a good feel for metal music. But me personally, I don't growl. I do get, I do have my, moments where I get pretty intense and a little husky, but not so much the Cookie Monster. I leave that up to my partner in crime, Mike. Yeah.
I never quite understood that. I'm a musician myself, so I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. All right, well, we're going to play.
I like it when it's like a special moment,
You like to just intersperse it here or there?
What was that?
You like it tastefully interspersed here or there?
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly.
That's a good
thing. It has more meaning to it,
Right. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Melissa, we're going to play Day of Wrath right now.
Cool.
Here live on Rock on Radio. We thank you for taking the time to call in and hang out with us for a little bit this evening. You kicked off the whole show tonight.
What's that? Say for the whole show?
I said you kicked off the whole show this evening.
Oh, great. Thank you for letting me.
Oh, fantastic. Keep us in mind if you ever want to. Reach out to our buddy Chip and, let us know where you're going on tour, if you're going to be east, because we're based in New Jersey. So if you're going to be there or here, let us know. We'd like to come out and check it out.
I would love to. I will make a point of making that happen.
Fantastic. All right, Melissa, thank you so much. And best of luck with Sin and Final Gravity and Lady Zepp. And I hope it all works out for you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Rock on. There you go.
Rock on.
That's it. This is, I believe this is Sin from Venom. And the tune called Day of Wrath. Stick around because we got Helen O'Shea and Fiona Tyndall in studio when we come back. You trying to give me a heart attack?
Fiona Tyndall. Danny Coleman.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I wasn't trying to, but she was trying not to puke in the car and water, so.
You're sick now too?
The windows down. We called Joe Weimer. I said, Joe, I need new friends. You're sick, this one's sick. Okay, we're not,
No, it's right here. It's on, but we're
Have a
not.
pen.
Fiona?
Have a
Okay.
pen.
Thank you, Danny.
Here, wait.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Helen, by the way.
Hi, Helen, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yes, Fiona.
Fiona, nice to meet you.
And
There you
we have Mark coming in at 8, Mark's first gig.
Mark's worst.
Mark's first. Okay, I'm just texting.
Keep an eye. Tell them to text so we can.
Oh, yeah, I should do that.
I did leave the door unlocked.
Oh, you did?
But
Okay.
they were in the
Do you want
front.
me to leave
Right.
it? You can take this.
No, there's another chair.
Okay.
Let him take this one.
Yeah.
Would you stay here? Can she stay at 8? Is there another
Or
one?
do you want me to-
No, he's up here, so.
Oh, okay.
You
So
know
we'll
what
swing
I'll
the car, the
I'll
chair.
bring him in here and I'll go over there. Yeah.
No, you're stuck with us.
do? But she's allowed to go to the couch if she wants to throw.
No,
We don't
stop,
want to
I'm
throw
fine.
them here. Let me just tell Mark, text when you are here, okay? And you are here.
Have some chocolate.
And then I'm
Yes,
just,
and help yourself. It's truffles.
Peanut
And
butter
they're
cup.
small, so, yeah.
You never know, I might reach.
Yeah, you might need a little chocolate, right? Let's get a little migraine thing going. Do you need water? You have water.
I have water, thanks.
Helen, do you have water?
I have, thank you. We're singers, we bring water everywhere.
Good. Yes, I do too.
I mentioned that you and I are working on something.
Right, I gotta have it.
Sorry, they're addicting. So, yeah, I finally got her thing to work.
Yeah, I just have Thursday.
All right,
So I need to, and then I have the second.
real quick.
Yes.
I don't talk religion, I don't talk politics. I don't do foul act.
He's no fun.
At least on air.
We don't do religion or politics. We come from Ireland, so you couldn't talk about this with anyone in Ireland. The foul language I keep for home, because that's like normal vernacular.
So,
Yeah.
so, you don't do religion or politics, but if you ask about a song that has something to do with that, is that,
No, that's
you know, like hundreds of years
Oh,
ago?
yeah, she had.
I'm not worried about it.
That's okay.
Had to do with
Just
old
explaining.
I just don't need anybody coming on here bashing
Oh,
the
gosh,
president.
no, we
and
don't,
Congress.
we
No, we
don't,
don't do that.
she's talking about Irish stuff.
No, they do a good enough job of that themselves.
Well,
Yeah,
a really good song which is in Gaelic called An Rev Tuag and Gary, and it's from the olden times when they weren't allowed to have mass in the
Like a
church.
minute.
They used to have mass.
Yeah.
That's fine. You wanna talk
Oh,
about
that's,
that?
yeah,
That's
it's
fine.
a beautiful song.
It
Yeah,
does
that's fine.
touch on
Yeah.
politics, but not in the way he's talking about it.
One of the
Yes.
greatest things was, I was in Doolin
Oh, were you?
and I got to watch SpongeBob in Gaelic.
Go away.
And I was like, cool!
When were you in Dublin?
A few years
You know,
back.
I'm from County Clare.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I was in Doolin.
Yeah, did you enjoy it?
Oh, yeah. I was there for 15 days.
Were you in O'Connor's?
Oh.
I don't think he ever left.
I turned
That's the yes
40,
right there.
turned 48, I guess, 46, 48, something like that. It was about almost 10 years ago I've been there, in McGann's.
McGann's.
Oh, my lord.
Yeah. They're still doing food. Are they still serving food? They used to serve great food there, I remember.
They had food. I know they had a lot of Guinness.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you had a good time. 15 days in.
Yeah, I spent a week in Doolin and a week in
Got about
Carlingford and
15
Bray.
seconds.
Oh, Carlingford, and then Bray, County Wicklow?
Yes,
Oh, right, okay.
Yep.
I know.
Oh,
well.
Wicklow's nice. Wicklow's nice.
yeah, that's how we went back and forth to Dublin the last 2 days we were there.
Okay.
Oh, we're back. There we go. See, I'm lost in Ireland again. Art,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle this here,
What is that?
these Irish accents. I get weak. He's got
I got no bottle in
Hey,
the drawer.
no, I told you I might need recovery by the time this weekend is done. Welcome to Rock On Radio. I am Danny Coleman. Engineer Art is here. Producer Claire is here.
Hello.
And if you're watching us at home on YouTube, this is Helen O'Shea, and she is brought on with her Fiona Tyndall. So, hello, ladies.
Hello, Danny. Hello, everybody.
What a interesting. Well, it was very
Day.
interesting, actually.
An
Yes,
interesting
it's
day it's been.
been an interesting weekend. I've been in Asbury Park. Well, Friday night, I went out to the Nottingham Tavern to see Sir Sherry, who has been on this show accompanying Lisa Coppola on guitar in the past. And then yesterday I spent in Asbury Park, that's where I saw you.
Yes,
I saw you
that's
Helen,
right.
at the Women of Song, which was a great event. And then today I was at Cafe Artiste, hanging out there. Another great event. I'm sorry I had to leave during Mary McCrink's set.
Oh, she was good.
And then Tara Dente, I ran into her as I was walking out the door. I held the door, she was coming in. So all kinds of great music for the light of day, actually, which started in Europe, that whole charity, I believe, right? Light of Day? Didn't that start in
I
Europe?
heard that it started right in New Jersey when Bob Benjamin.
Oh, Bob
was having
Benjamin
his
started it.
birthday
Yes,
party.
that's right.
And he managed, Bob Benjamin, bless him, he managed to turn a birthday party
Forgot
into
about
that
him.
phenomenon of Saturday night in
Right.
Asbury Park. I mean,
Yes.
it's just unreal what one man can do.
I didn't even
you know?
see anything on Facebook. Did Bruce show up?
He didn't show up. No.
He didn't show up this
No.
year? With Joe Grishecki in town and Willie Nile in town?
Listen, I don't want to upset Bruce Springsteen because I've loved him since I was 10. But, you know, there were so many fantastic musicians at that event. And not just on the Paramount stage, not just
Wow.
for the big, huge shows, you know. Like Rob Dye had his open mic that Barbara and I played at Friday.
Friday. Yeah.
Some of the talent of that open mic,
Oh,
I
I
gotta
know.
mention Martin Pretorius from Germany. He was outstanding. And there was a whole host of other people that were brilliant. Dave Vargo. But another person that blew my mind, and I don't get my mind blown very often now. Like I'm an old woman. I've been through a lot. But I was telling Fiona, I went to Langosta Lounge to Peter's event. We played there last year. It was fantastic. But of course, the band don't want to travel anywhere for 2 songs, and I understand that. But I went up there and I was watching like Leo from the Cordays. I'm a great fan of the Cordays. And I had never seen Ashley De Lima live, who's one of Mark's artists, one of the young ones. So, you know, I was like, I'd see her on Facebook, then I saw her video for Cigarette, which is excellent. But I'm telling you, Danny, I was stuck to my seat at Langosta Lounge. That girl is unreal. She had a 3-song set, which got turned into a 4th song because the owner of Langosta came out and said, can she do another song? Peter's like, well, we're going to make her do another song. She got on that stage and she looked like she was at PNC Bank. Now, you know what the Langosta Lounge stage is like.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark faded into the distance, and the wonderful guy who was playing, you know, the square drum faded into the distance. And it was like her whole persona and presence just came right out into the whole room. She is someone to watch. One of the songs she did, I was like, I want to buy it now. Mark's like, slow your roll because it's not coming out in the summer. But she blew my mind. She was the high point for me, along with, of course, Joe Weimer. Joe, feel better. I wish you were here with me tonight.
Joe was actually supposed to be our guest this evening, but she has taken ill. She had a great set yesterday at the Saint during the Women of Song.
Oh, she was outstanding. Outstanding.
But I used to play drums for Joe Weimer. You know that?
You told me that when we met at Hopewell, at the Hopewell Theatre for Willie Nile, I think it was.
Yes.
That's when I found out you were a drummer. And I've heard since from Bobby Coaches that you've been to the bistro in Hopewell on some of the nights I haven't been there. So we should coordinate our schedules and go to the same Friday night. Fiona goes there too, so.
You go to the bistro?
I do. Now, I don't go that frequently to the bistro, but I actually go on a Sunday afternoon between 1 and 4 on every 2nd and every 4th Sunday because it's a traditional Irish music session there.
Well, they have Irish sessions
They
there
do,
every
they
second and
do.
fourth
Yeah,
Sunday?
I was there
Okay.
last Sunday and they had 10 musicians. There were 6 fiddlers.
Wow.
There was an accordion player, there was a bodhrán player, and a few singers, and they were fantastic. Some of these people have grown up in New York, you know, and they are just fantastic musicians. But yeah.
I've got I can never say it right, but I've got a bodhrán.
Oh, you have a bodhrán.
Yeah,
Bodhrán. See, I can never say it right.
You see, Fiona won't tell you this, but some of these musicians were part of her amazing band last night at the Sanctuary. And not only did this voice of an angel sing her way through the show she designed and produced, but she featured on the bodhrán herself. She's an accomplished bodhrán player with the musicians when they played. I think you did 2 instrumental
We did
sets.
we did 3 instrumental sets during the 2-hour show, and it was a tribute to Robert Burns because his birthday, of course, is January the 25th.
Well, they had a big Robert Burns birthday blowout down at O'Connor's in Mount Holly. And I missed the parade of haggis. Which
maybe you're better off. Maybe you're better off.
I might have been better off.
I think so.
They had a parade of haggis. Good, but yeah, I did.
No, it was well, I started singing Robert Burns years ago. I was living and in school in Scotland and heard Robert Burns music for the first time. I'm talking like a long time ago. And I developed this show. It's called Shamrock and Thistle. And it's 2 hours of Scottish music. And I have a fiddler, Wolf Hull. He's a wonderful fiddler from Lawrenceville. Judy Minot is the keyboard player. She's just amazing keyboard player. And David Ross is drummer, fantastic drummer. And Rich Miller is guitar player. And myself, I'm the vocalist.
Okay. Nice.
And it's a beautiful show, I have to say. It's a wonderful show.
It was outstanding.
It's a mix of song and traditional Scottish music and music from Ireland. So it's the Shamrock and the Thistle.
It's been a while since I repeated myself on this show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You sure?
No. It's been like
5 minutes.
Okay, it's a while for me. But one of the things that I found before we went on the air, you said to me, did I go to O'Connor's?
Yeah.
That's where my children had their first Guinness.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They were underage.
Yeah.
Teenage
No.
in Ireland is very different.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of my proudest moments was when my son, who is in college right now in Northeastern, I probably shouldn't say this, he's definitely not listening, he's probably out, but he was in Ireland from September to December as part of his studies, and he got his highest marks of the entire year for the essay he wrote on should the drinking age be lowered in the USA. So I'm very proud of him.
Based on the
I know it was
Irish evidence.
They already tried that.
16 and 18
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
Based
Right?
on the practical approach.
Of course.
And my son was 16, my daughter was 13, or yeah, I guess when we went there. And but I had just gotten a bowl of seafood chowder,
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
and which they made very well there, actually.
Yeah.
And I got the chowder, and as it was coming out, I thought to myself, you know what, I gotta hit the bathroom. So I get up to go to the bathroom, and you know, you're familiar with where the musicians set up in O'Connor's?
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so they're in that corner
Yeah.
Yeah.
as you
yeah,
walk down
yeah.
the hall to go to the bathrooms. And they were playing, I don't even know what the tune was they were playing, but there was a fiddle player, there was a whistle player, there was a guitar player, a banjo player. And I wasn't really a dude. I think he was a drummer, actually. I think he had like a small snare drum with
Okay.
brushes or something.
That was Vinny.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. So I go into the bathroom and I'm listening and the tune's coming on. And you know, I wash my hands, I walk out. And the tune never stopped playing. But I came out and they were all different musicians. I said, how did that happen? It's like one just, they must have just,
That's called a session.
Yeah.
So the session doesn't stop. So you come in with your instrument, you take it out, you join in, you play until you need a drink, and then you leave, and then
The music stays.
But I have to tell you, like, before we get into the whole event on Friday, you should know too that as well as her own wonderful shows, and she has a couple coming up, Fiona and I are part of a Celtic band called Shenanigans. So of course, March, we're going to be all over the place
Nice.
with a 9-piece band doing all the traditional songs of Ireland. So you may want to grab a Guinness and come join us, and we'll let you know the dates at the end of
We're
the show.
several.
I got two hands.
Yeah.
But before March, next Friday, we have a big event coming up in Princeton.
Yes, you do. And that is why you're here this evening. And we're going to get to that in a second because you know what? I didn't do anything I was supposed to do. Rock On Radio is sponsored tonight by Jody Weber, CPA, actress Eileen Sullivan, hot sauce maker D.L. Byron of Zen Archer Hot Sauce. He also won a Grammy Award. D.L. Byron. Yeah, he wrote Shadow of the Night for Pat Benatar.
Nice.
Who else are we sponsored by? Oh, John Alberici, Johnny's Auto Glass.
I saw he was
Oh,
in the.
good luck, John.
Oh, yeah.
He was at the voice audition.
Yeah, he told me today he didn't do well.
Aw.
Or not that he didn't do well, he said there were 10 of them in the room.
Uh-huh.
I said, well, what happened? He said there were 10 of us in the room. And there was a group of 10, like, judges.
Mhm.
And they only told one girl to stay. They said everybody else could go. So
Hard.
he was eliminated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rats.
That'll make you bitter.
Well, this is a ton of people. out
Judge
there.
number 3 better have somebody else start their car. That's all I can say.
I know, we're just biased.
Of course.
Um,
And O'Connor's.
and O'Connor's, that's right. O'Connor's American Bar and Grill in Mount Holly. I want to thank Pat and Terry O'Connor for.
Did you hear Richie's news?
No, what's Richie up to?
Richie is going back on the road with Nectar.
Oh, yeah, that finally came
50th
through.
Anniversary
Oh,
tour.
nice, very cool. I wonder if he'll go out as Simon Lake. But oh, that's great. That's good news for Richie. Good for him. Congratulations.
Of course, my next question was Flying Dreams opening for Nectar?
Yeah, right. That'd be like Melissa that just called. If you want to give us a call tonight, you can do so by calling 609-241-7103. That's 609-241-7103. You can follow us on Facebook, Danny Coleman's Rock On Radio 2, the number 2. We'll be taking questions and comments and all that fun stuff. Or Twitter and Instagram are all the same. Rock On Radio all one word, all capital letters. For our guests tonight, Helen O'Shea and Fiona Tyndall and Mark Swirsky will be joining us later.
Yeah.
Okay. But you are here actually for several reasons, but we won't go into those. We'll just go into this.
I always wonder what you're going to say next. It's very exciting. Rock on radio. Whether you're a listener, which I am, I love the show, or whether you're actually here, it's like, oh my goodness, where is he going next? Okay, all right.
See?
We had that same feeling.
I can tell.
Later on.
I keep you on your toes.
So listen, if
So-
if Debbie's calling in at 7:45, we better say something about the event, right?
Nah.
Or should we
not
just-
do
should we
that?
just blow over? We should just blow over.
I'm about to, actually. I was going there. See, but I had to get my sponsors. That's probably a smart move. You have this event going on this coming Friday, January 25th. Is it at the library or at the Art Center?
Well, we have to make this explicitly clear. It's a co-production with my music company and the library. I do a lot of work with them, but they are constantly undergoing renovations to make the building better. So the Arts Council has stepped in because that's what we're like in Princeton. We're community, everybody pulls together. So it's actually a Princeton Public Library event being held at the Arts Council of Princeton with the help of Labyrinth Bookstore, which is bringing in a whole lot of books so that we can have them at the event. And also I want to give a shout out to John Lambert because they're selling my CD, Turning Tides, at Princeton Record Exchange, that iconic place in Princeton. So it's like a whole Princeton family get together type of thing, but it is at the Arts Council of Princeton.
And that's at 102 Witherspoon Street in Princeton, just a block or so down from the main gates of the university.
Exactly.
Okay, so design your next chapter with our friend Debbie Travis. Go.
So Debbie Travis was my neighbor in Montreal for 14 years. My first introduction to her was when I was getting my floors fixed after we bought the house. I'm like, I need to find someone who, does flooring. So I had a guy come over and he's like, if you want a reference, you can ask the woman 2 doors up because I'm doing the floors right now. So I went up and knocked on the door and she said she'll be down and then she comes down. And I'm very private, right? We just moved from an apartment in Montreal to our new house or our new baby. And I opened the door. All I wanted her to tell me was that the guy would do the floor and that he wouldn't make a mess, right? She pushes herself in through the door. Hi, I'm Debbie Travis. And then the next thing I know, she's drinking tea in my kitchen. I'm supposed to be at work at the hospital, right? At the Royal Vic. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to get rid of her? And then in the middle of the conversation, she goes, do you know who I am? I'm like, no. I don't know who you are. And that was the beginning of a friendship that started in, I think it was 2000. It was because my son was born in 2000. And it's 18 years of a friendship, a sister friendship like you could not believe. But that's how we met.
And she's going to be calling us from Toronto.
That's correct. She's calling around 7:45. And if any of you are out there listening and you want to hear one of the most inspirational speakers I've ever heard, you really need to pay attention. The thing that's cool about this project, though, because she's got many, many books, is this is a girl who was a model, went to Cannes with some TV company she was working with, like she was a runner or something, met her husband, married him 2 months later, and the next thing she knew, she had moved from London to Montreal and knew nobody, and they all spoke French, and she had no friends, and they had no money. So she started learning how to paint houses and do, faux finishes and all this. And then the next thing, she's making videos. And then she has a TV show called The Painted House. And then she has a TV show called From the Ground Up. Then she has a TV show called Facelift. She's pretty much the Martha Stewart of Canada. She's really, really famous in Canada.
Cool.
But in the middle of it all, as she says in the book, she was a successful TV producer with her husband, 2 beautiful sons, and a fantastic best friend, that would be me, who had an endless supply of Pinot Grigio on the fridge.
There you
So,
go.
but the next thing was, over the years, we would talk to each other. Like I was working at the hospital, I was teaching medical students, working in research, totally different life back then. And she would say to me, I'm working so hard, I never see the kids, something's missing. And she developed this dream that she just wanted to live in Italy with her husband. And long story short, she'll tell you more about it, they bought a ramshackle farmhouse They renovated it from the ground up to a 15-room spectacular property where they have women come for retreats, and now they have couples as well. They do cooking retreats, but it's really a place to go. You know, a lot of the women have either their children have left home, or they're going through divorce, or they've lost their husband, and they've like done everything for everybody their whole lives, and it's like, now what? What is there anything left for me, or is my life over? And she's inspired and taken care of and empowered so many women. And that's what this book is about. I mean, she starts the back with what if. So she's figured out how to design her next chapter, and now she wants to share that information with everybody else. Now, the reason why I put the joint event together and didn't just have Debbie come in and speak, because she could do that until the end of the day. She's a fantastic speaker and very highly in demand. But at the same time that she was doing all this, I arrived in Princeton, you know, medical degree, clinical practice, loved obstetrics and gynecology. I would have worked on labor and delivery my whole life if there wasn't other things going on. But my husband moved from Montreal to Princeton, and my kids didn't want to move. It was a very traumatic time for the family. And my kids, when I was so upset, and my husband was already down in Jersey, I said to them, just go away, talk to each other. My daughter was in kindergarten and my son was in 5th grade. And just have a meeting and think of something you can have in Princeton that you can't have here. I was thinking like a trampoline, you know, because there's a lot of snow and and the two little so-and-sos came back. They said, we had our meeting. We don't want to go to the after-school program anymore, and we want you home. 5th grade and kindergarten. These are my children. I cried my eyes out. I called my husband.
Extortionist.
I thought, exactly, that's what I said. And I thought that my husband would say, you know, Fiona's sick of hearing this. I thought my husband would say, don't worry, honey, I got your back. You know what he said to me? That's not a bad idea. So there I was,
So good.
all these years.
Totally outnumbered.
Totally outnumbered. And not only that, I was always Dr. Helen McNamara, because I kept my father's name because he put me through medical school. And on top of it, they said, and by the way, we want you to have the same last name as us. So Helen O'Shea was born in Princeton in 2011. Nobody like that existed before. So the long story short is that I went from a medical career that I loved, especially the teaching part. I love medical students. And it's interesting because Fiona is also in the medical profession. And now I have this dream coming true that happened out of a situation that was not a good situation. So that's why I call the album Turning Tides. And that's why the second half of the event on Friday is Navigating Turning Tides. Because it's a funny thing. People think, oh, let me sit down and write my next chapter. No, 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 that's not how it happens. Your life gets turned upside down. You land in a country over 50 and you have to start all over again. You have no friends, you know nobody, and your kids are relying on you to do the same thing for them. And then you start navigating turning tides. And man, am I so happy that man dragged me to Princeton, because Princeton has been very, very good to me. And I'm really living a dream that I couldn't even dream because of those people.
How did we meet Fiona? Fiona, how did you meet her?
Why don't you tell them?
I have to think back. It's a couple of years now. I met you at a music event.
It was St. Patrick's
We're both
weekend, yeah.
members.
Ah.
Was it the Einstein
Yeah.
Alley Music Collaborative?
The
It
High
was
Holy
both
Day.
members of the Einstein Alley Music Collaborative.
Okay.
It's an organization that was started up a good few years ago by a man called Steve Georges. And I met Steve. I had just moved to the area, and I don't know how I met him, but I remember saying to him, you know, I am a singer, I'm a musician, but I'm traditional Irish is what I want to do right now. And I want my children to find, I had moved from Massachusetts, and they were all taking lessons in tin whistle and flute, and I wanted to find that here. And he said to me, you know, you're the very type of person for this organization that he was putting together. And it's he said, that's what I want to do. I want to set up this organization where people like you can come down, find other musicians, and collaborate with them. And it's a fantastic organization. I've met tons of musicians through it. A lot of the guys in my band came from the Einstein Alley Music Collaborative, and that's where I met Helen. We did a show together, and
We've done a few shows together now.
Didn't know each other,
Yeah.
and got to know each other at that. Yeah, and that's a few years ago.
I actually just did a gig with the Einstein Alley
Oh, did you?
Musicians Collaborative. I did that thing with Robert
Did you do
Freeman, the Motown
Oh,
thing.
Did you do Motown as well?
She sang a song in Motown.
Did you?
You were on stage together, you two clowns.
No.
No.
Oh, maybe he did the Christmas one. Did you?
I did the one at the end of summer.
Just now? Didn't I do
I'm
that one?
telling you, she did that one because I
We
was
were
at-
outside in
sang,
front of the
yeah.
library.
I sang
Danny,
Ain't No Mountain High Enough with
couldn't,
Gary.
I couldn't do it because I was at See Here Now, because it was September. It was
Yes,
like
it was
September
September.
21, 22.
Ain't
Guys,
No
have
Mountain
at it.
High Enough. I sang that with Gary.
Was that the
Pearson.
first half or the second half?
Second.
Yeah, see, I had to leave the second half.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
you
that's
guys
funny.
also-
Because I had to come here.
Oh my God, this world is so small. That's
I
unreal.
love Motown.
You two were in the same show.
I cut my teeth on a rock band singing rock music here with a band called the Funk and Soul Nuts.
I love that name.
It was a
I
band
love
that
that
was
name.
started by a guy called Mark. Can't remember. He was the manager of the band, and it was a 11-piece horn band.
Okay.
And I cut my teeth singing rock and roll and Motown with that band. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have, did you give Art, do you have any of their music?
I didn't.
You have Helen's and you have,
I do.
Fiona's, right?
Which one?
Okay, which one of you ladies wants us to hear
Well,
some
let's-
music? Because we're expecting a call in
Yeah,
about 5 minutes.
let's
so.
do one of the ones that we're going to be performing at the show on Friday. In fact, Fiona and I are going to be doing 2 duets together off of my album. But the one that I would love you to play, if it's okay with you, is called Every Mother's Prayer. Let me see what
This on your album?
Yeah.
That would
It was
be.
track 6,
Mhm.
and we just performed this together at the Bitter End in New York.
Oh, you
on,
did?
December 30th with the full band, and that was a really high point for me to get
Oh,
to
yeah.
share the stage together. Because the very first time I performed that live was at my EP release party back in February 2016, I think.
Yeah, it's a good while ago.
This one, who was also a great, great friend of mine, was by my side back then too. So to have her there the first night we ever took it out, and then at the Bitter End, which was a huge show for us, that was awesome.
Nice.
And I was thrilled that you invited me to come and sing at the Bitter End.
But you're great.
What was
crack,
your-
Fiona? It's no crack without you. That's why I dragged her out.
I was in my
Yeah, she was in her
pajamas. She
pajamas.
called me and said, "Hey, I had a big show yesterday.
Yeah,
I was
she's like,
exhausted today. I was in my
full-show
pajamas.
failure.
I get the call, be in my house in 20 minutes."
I got the call from him. I was still in my pajamas when I was talking to him. I'm like, Danny, get off the phone. I need to get dressed, you know?
I was driving home from Asbury Park.
No, I was at 3 shows yesterday. Give me a break.
You
know?
I know, I've done
Yeah.
this. I've done 4 gigs in one day.
But you're Danny Coleman. Stop.
What does that mean?
Because I wouldn't be able to do that. One gig
No.
is enough for me in a day now. I'm too old for that.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna hear a cut off of Helen O'Shea's disc called Turning Tides. And this is called Every Mother's Prayer, right here on Rock On Radio. Good, Art? There you go. Beautiful.
Yes.
Danny, you're a great crack.
Ah.
I knew you were good fun, but man, he's great crack. That's a huge compliment, by the way. You probably know that, having been in Clare and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, boy.
Are we talking too much, or are we?
No,
Okay, all right.
why did
What part
you?
of Ireland are you from?
Limerick.
Oh, nice.
So right next door to you.
Mhm.
When I was there, we were driving through Limerick, and there's a big Dell factory there,
There is, yeah.
right? But lining the streets by the Dell factory were all these military vehicles and soldiers with,
That's unusual for Limerick.
and I thought to myself, what the heck is going on here?
Was
That's
it,
very
The
unusual.
only
Bank?
town I was not real,
Do you remember,
Do you remember
what
that?
year it was by any chance?
2009
Oh no, I don't know.
or 10, it was the summer of 2009.
no, I just remember, do you remember when banks were making big deposits or something? The military
Oh,
always
that's
came
true,
along
yeah.
and they stood just, in
Maybe
case.
that could have been what it was, but I was like, wow, that's just weird. It was right by the Dell factory. I remember that. But the only time I did not feel comfortable in Ireland, and it was just, I thought was just in my head because
Yeah.
of past history
Yeah.
when we were in Belfast.
Oh,
Oh God, yeah.
And, I went to Belfast and
was it in July by
went to
any
Derry.
chance?
And,
Was it in July?
yes,
Not a good
and
time.
I was there last week of June, first week of July.
Yeah.
And I just remember and I have my kids with me,
Yeah.
and I'm divorced, so I'm thinking, just please don't let anything happen with
Yeah.
them or my watch. God, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
So, but, that could be her.
That's her. She's,
But don't you know,
yeah.
a week after we came home, they
Hello?
had their first car bomb.
Debbie!
I'm crying over that song so much.
Did you mind that I told them how we met?
It'll pick it up from
Yeah, it'll pick it up the.
Debbie.
Deb, are you there?
I am there, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello, Debbie. I'm Danny Coleman. I'm the host of this,
Shindig.
this.
Mayhem.
Hi,
Yeah,
hi
that's
Danny,
it.
hi Fiona, hi
Hello.
Helen,
Hi,
hi
Debbie.
everybody.
Hi, Deb. Here we go. We're gonna go live in about 5 seconds.
Great,
Have you got your wine?
yeah.
Good woman. I knew you would. You're breathing very heavy. What's up?
Who's breathing heavy?
Her! Listen, oh,
panting.
Danny,
What are you up to?
Danny
What are you
just
up
thought
to?
I was talking to him. Danny, Debbie, meet my friend Fiona Tyndall. We're all going drinking after
Hi
the show on
Debbie, how are
Friday.
you? I'm
Oh,
looking forward to
we
Friday.
are?
We are.
Great. I might want to be
You
at
better
this show.
come. You need to come. We'll help you design your next chapter.
You might
We'll
need
get
just
you-
persuade
We'll get you in a
them.
whole mess of trouble, Danny Coleman.
What, see?
Yeah,
That
he
depends on,
just have to-
see how life is all perspective?
Sure.
She thinks that would be trouble. I'd be
I
like,
know
woo!
you're in trouble. Listen, I was with you on
No.
the stage yesterday. Hang on, I'm not basing this off of nothing. You were there too. I saw the glint in your eye. There's Irish in there somewhere. With a name like Coleman, are you kidding me?
I got the,
It's like a party going on there.
you have no idea. Hello, Debbie Travis. How are you?
Hello. I'm fantastic. It's like I'm listening to you all the way in Toronto in the freezing cold, and it sounds like a party going on. It sounds amazing.
Well,
It's a great show.
Oh,
Really
well, thank
good
you.
show.
I'm glad. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk
That's
to
really
you.
good. I nearly forgot to call because I was so busy listening. I was like in my pajamas, like I love this show. This is
We've
great.
heard the word
We've
pajamas
all been
3
in our
times today.
pajamas today.
Apart from that noisy Irish show.
Pajama party.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. You know what this would.
That's the connection.
Does anybody wear lingerie anymore? What's this? Pajama?
Oh, Danny, for God's sake, man.
All right, sorry. I
Oh,
lost
You
my
made a visual.
We're OG.
Yeah, apparently so.
There's,
All
there's
right.
Danny's next chapter. He's going to design lingerie.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that in my mind. All right, so Debbie, now, first of all, let me tell you, I went to a show today in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And when I left the house, it was 48 degrees. And when I came out of the show, it was about 28 degrees with a wind chill in the single digits. So we are experiencing that same cold that you are up there in Toronto in the Great
Well, I can
North.
tell you whatever temperature it is there, I can guarantee it's colder here.
I have no doubt.
She's so competitive,
You
Danny.
go outside,
It's 18
you
degrees.
go outside and you feel like your skin's gonna come off. And I was at a huge mass retailer today signing books, and it was like the place was empty. Who on earth comes out in this weather, you know?
Yeah, right.
But
It's cold.
yeah,
I know.
it's cold.
So tell us about your book, and then we'll talk about, once you're done with that, we'll talk about the event with you and Helen this coming Friday.
Well, first of all, I have to say that everything Helen said is lies. I did not bamboozle her house. But yeah, we were neighbors for a long time, and then every Friday night she would turn up on my doorstep with a bottle of wine, running away from her children. And but yeah, we became a great battling ground for our problems with each other. In our pajamas, we'd run up and down the road in pajamas.
That's true.
Yeah. So we had. It's really fun because we come from completely different worlds. I'm British. I'm English. She's Irish. That's already a start. And then I had decorating shows, on HGTV across America and Canada and stuff, and for 25 years. And Helen's the very intelligent one on the street. She was the surgeon and the doctor and the medical profession, and I was the painter. And but we just gelled, and we just were great friends.
But like Helen said, you know, as she gave you my biography, you know, I think with every job, you get to the stage where sometimes it starts to feel a bit like deja vu, you know, like I've done this before, I've been here before, and I've been in the television business for so many years. And it was like every meeting I had felt like, I just feel like I've been in this before, which I probably had. And so I just had this little dream, like many people. I had a seed of an idea, and I had this dream about one day, wouldn't it be nice to maybe own a little property in Italy? I loved Italy, and then the dream grew, and then in the end, I found a property, and I thought, well, I don't really want to spend the next 20 years just looking at my old man, my husband.
Although he is lovely, I have to say he's lovely.
But I loved it so much, and I felt so good there, you know, the air and the food and of course the wine. And I thought, well, what if I shared it? What if I invited other women who were thinking about maybe
Denny's booking tickets.
you can. Yeah, I'll see you next week. But you know, what if I invited people over to come and stay with me and share their next chapters, or where they were going, or maybe they weren't sure, or maybe they couldn't find their ideas, or they couldn't find their passion. And I rented a property to start off, and it was a runaway success. And then we thought, well, let's just buy something. And we spent 5 years renovating. And then we opened in 2005, and it's been amazing. But, you know, it's like anything where you start something different. Let's say you buy a new car, you suddenly see that car everywhere. Like, oh, I like that. I like it in red, you know. So I started to be attracted like a moth to the flame of other people's change, other people's ideas. And I started to get really fascinated by people who just jump, like Helen. She goes from being a surgeon to a singer, you know, or people who just said, I've been in the corporate world, I want to own a bakery, or I just want to paint, or I want to write, or I want to do something that kind of fills me in a different way. And I started to interview people around the world, hundreds of interviews, and it was just fascinating. Obviously, they didn't all make the book. So I wrote this book about my thread of what I learned, the ups and the downs and the challenges of doing something completely different, and then other people's stories. And then, of course, the people who say, well, I don't know where my passion is anymore, or I don't know what to do next, but I have to do something. So I think you have to give people the tools to do it. So I tried to give people the tools to jump from that little seed of an idea they might have in their head, or their dream, or whatever it is, and actually help them get started through really the machine that they need to do that. So it's been it's been exciting, and now we're starting the publicity in America, which is really great. And it's number one up here, so that's kind of good. Drum little trumpet. Yeah. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. And of course, Helen's in the book because I knew there's a lot of the stories in there are people I knew. And, you know, with Helen to go from being in the medical profession very high up, she won't tell you that, but she was. And then just say, I want to sing. And I remember saying to her, but you don't know how to sing. She said, well, I'll learn. I said, what do you mean you're going to learn? She said, well, I'll go to singing school, and look at her now. It's like, she's organizing all this stuff. She's amazing. And the song you just played, Every Mother's Prayer, you know, I know virtually, I have it when I'm driving around, it's really like playing with tears running down my face. And so I know all her songs, which I just think they're wonderful. They're just this kind of slightly Irish lyric with, you know, this, you know, you guys know more about music than I do, but I just think it's magnificent. And I think it's other people's stories like that inspire us all when we think, I just can't do it, or I'm afraid, or, you know, I don't know how to. And I think it's other people who inspire us. And these aren't people who say, I want to be the next, you know, Steve Jobs. These are people who just say, I want to do something. I'm at a crossroads now, and I want to do something, but I don't know what it is, or I don't know how to do it. And I think that's, I think it's really poignant for so many of us. You know, like Helen said, you may be an empty nester, or you may have early retirement, or you may have been sick. I have a friend who's a musician in the UK, and he got prostate cancer. And he said, like many people, if I get better, I'm going to change my life. And he'd been a singer years before, and then had stopped to raise a family and, you know, and do other things and start a business and stuff. And he went back and he's got his band together and he's touring now. And so I think we start these next chapters for many, many different reasons. Or like the millenniums, you know, they're not growing up like we are. They don't want what we've got. They want to do what makes them happy. And
let me ask you a question, Debbie, along those lines. What is it that you think causes this in us? Is it the desire as a human being to be safe, to have comfort, to be withdrawn in your own surroundings? You know, the old hearth and home type syndrome, or is it something that? Why is it that we have to either get sick, get a second chance, you know, have something happen where we have to reinvent? Why do we put off what we want to do?
Exactly, great question, and that's what I wanted to get. I wanted to have one story in the book where it was somebody who'd got ill who said, if I get better, you know, I'm going to live my, and we don't, why wait for that? But you know what, it's not always the right time. You know, you may have elderly parents and it's not the right time to do it. You maybe have 3 tiny kids and you've got to keep that job that pays the rent type of thing. But, you know, sometimes dreams can be put on hold. But a time comes where you just say, I can't walk in this office anymore, you know. I can't. There was a woman that I interviewed in the UK who was a very well-known journalist with the Financial Times, and I heard her story on a TED Talk. And basically she said, you know, after 30 years of doing a job I love, but, you know, you're not challenged anymore. You can do it in your sleep. And she said, I just wanted to do something that was challenging. And she became a maths teacher, teaching basic maths at an inner city school. And yes, of course, it was brutal. Plus, she was on a tiny percentage of her salary as a journalist. And she, the press, and I think the New York Times picked up her story and many different newspapers. And then other people started getting in touch with her saying, you know, I'm a stockbroker. I've made my money. I don't need to do this anymore. I want to teach. So she started a charity helping people to get into the schooling, the teaching system, because it's not easy at a certain age. And so there were stories like that, which were just like, sometimes it's like, I can't do this any longer. I know it all. And so there's that feeling of deja vu, which was, I love the television industry. I've been in it, you know, since I was in my early 20s, both producing and, you know, on television. And I just wasn't excited. And if I'm not excited, how are the viewers going to be excited? Now, you know, you obviously love what you do, but sometimes, you know, people have done it for so long, they're like, you know what, enough now. You know, there's a great Italian word, and it's called basta. Basta means enough, done. You know, I'm ready for something. I need to have that spark back in my life, you know, and I think it's in all of us.
Okay. So now when you come to Princeton this Friday, is this a one-off thing, or will you be going on book signings around the country?
Well, yeah, I've just done 6 weeks in Canada, and then yeah, we'll start the books with American publishers, Penguin, Random House, and we'll do some in the States, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really exciting. But you know, Helen, she's a very proactive person, and the neighbor next door. And but you know, when your neighbor becomes your best friend, it's an amazing thing. And she said, look, let's do something together. And she loves Princeton and has got. I've never seen anybody jump into a new chapter as fast as she does. But we said, look, I'm here, and let's do something. So yeah. So maybe we'll do more. Maybe we'll go on tour, Debbie and Helen.
That would be dangerous. Oh my God, that would be so
very dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
I'll tell you what, if Danny drives us, I'll go and we'll bring Fiona in her pajamas. How's that?
There you go.
Exactly. We'll do our own band.
And the tour bus will be called the PJ Express.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know,
and you have to wear your.
And Danny plays drums, so we have a drummer already as well as a driver. So we just got to
exactly. We've got it all. Yeah, we've all got it all put together now. That's amazing.
Mark's going to be here any minute with his guitar. I mean, I think we're good.
But I think, you know, what we want Friday night to be is a really fun evening for people to come down if they want to ask questions about, you know, their next chapters or just come and enjoy the music. I think it's going to be a very involved evening. I think it's going to be very entertaining. I mean, you can't get more entertaining than Helen, and she doesn't even have to play anything.
The combo is quite exciting. The two of us together.
And the best part is it's free admission, right?
But I have to tell you something.
Debbie, let him say it's free admission first.
Oh yes, it's absolutely free. Don't we love free? But the last time I came to Princeton to stay with Helen, she planned it for like a year. And there's a whole bunch of us. I have to tell them this story, Helen.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she planned it. She had every restaurant booked. Of course, I double checked that they were
50th
nice
birthday.
restaurants.
Don't you remember? It was my 50th birthday. And she had to vet every place I booked any. I put together the best weekend. I hired a limousine. I wanted to go to Belmar, to this beautiful Italian restaurant. And into New York, we did the all-day champagne brunch in New York. She went in and vetted every venue before we went there, in case it wasn't up to her standards.
What was that restaurant in Belmar? Because I know the name.
You know the Italian
Yes,
restaurant.
yes, yes.
It's like a mom.
Helen is a favorite
And I
of
chose it.
all
And
you
we
can
took a
eat.
limo from Princeton to that Italian restaurant. And this one.
Helen
was a
loves all
really
you can
check
eat
it out.
buffet. But when I came down to Princeton, I took is it the Dinky? I took the train from New York, and then I took the little train, and then we arrived at her house, and she's standing there with a bottle of
Not the windows.
window cleaner
Oh, for God's
and a
sake.
mop. And I
Was she
said,
in
"You
her
want me to make the
pajamas?"
bed?" Yeah. She'd been planning it for a year, and she was just starting to, scrub the room and the
Debbie
bathroom.
Travis, I am going to kill you.
I
I have
So
to
this time,
No, just a second. You're going to be off the phone in a minute, and you're in such trouble right now. You were doing so well up until the Windex, and now you're in deep, deep trouble.
So is this what we're in for on Friday night with the two of you?
yeah,
This is gonna be
it'll be
interesting.
two friends.
Little bit of music. Little bit of music.
Fiona, are you gonna take charge?
I might have to.
Yeah.
I might have to.
Yeah.
All right.
Fiona can be the mediator between us.
There
Okay.
you go.
Okay.
Now, Debbie, how do we find you? What are your websites? What are we?
Just debbietravis.com. You can find me there, and tomorrow we'll put up the event as well because we've got lots of American fans, and if anybody's in the area, we'd love you to come along and say hi, and we'll be signing autographs and taking
And
pictures.
books,
You want
and
lots of
books.
pictures? Yeah, and listening to Helen's music, and which is I love it. I was a great friend of Kirsty McCall's, and who was an Irish. Do you remember her?
They all know her. Everyone knows her.
Oh, great. Well, she wrote with Billy Bragg, and she wrote with the Pogues, and
Right.
Tracy Ullman. She wrote the. Yeah, I mean, I was friends with her in London in our 20s, and she had a tragic accident and died, but her music always resonated with me, and I don't know, there's something about Helen's music that has that kind of upbeat, beautiful lyrics, and I think that's what I love about Helen's stuff, because her lyrics are, I mean, you can't not cry when you listen to it, and I think it's beautiful, and I think it's kind of a contemporary feel on kind of Irish folk. Is that the right way, Helen, you could describe it? Because that's how I see it. I'm a complete amateur.
Debbie, since you asked, we call it Americelticana. Americana with a Celtic twist.
America.
So we have our own genre, but thank you. Those are lovely things to say. And to compare me to Kirsty, I've never heard that before, and I really, really appreciate it. I have just so much respect for her work. And the one thing I would say about Debbie is, yes, come to the event. Yes, Labyrinth Bookstore in Princeton will very kindly have books for sale at the event. And I also want to shout out, I said, to John Lambert at Princeton Record Exchange, who has my record on sale this week for the event. But Debbie, one thing I would like to tell the listeners is this. You kindly sent me a copy of the book because I'm in it and I loved it, but I couldn't wait for it, so I bought it on Kindle because I was going to a music conference and I wanted to read it. But then I decided that I was going to spring for the audible version so that I could hear you. And I'll tell you what is different about the audio version. It is like sitting at the kitchen table with her talking. And this is something I've done all my life with her. But if any of you out there are interested in the book, I would advise you two things. Get the audio and then come buy the actual book and she'll sign it for you on Friday. But if you've read or listened to at least part of the book before the event on Friday, it'll be much more meaningful for you on the day.
Fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Debbie. Well,
it's fun. Yeah, it's nice because you meet all kinds of people, you know, when you do these book signings. And like this afternoon, I had this crazy experience. Sitting in the front was this beautiful girl, like 26 years old, smiling at me with this big beaming smile and looking at me like, you know, like, wow. And then sitting next to her was a woman my age who looked like she was sucking on a lemon. She looked furious. And I thought, God, that's really weird. And then when we started signing books, this girl leapt at me and she went, oh, God, I just love your book. She said, I've done everything you said and I've given up my job. I said, oh, and that was the mother who was glaring at me. And she said, well, thank you very much. We just put her through law school and she's quit. And the girl, I said to the girl, well, what is it you following your passion and what do you want to do? She said, I want to be a karate teacher. And you said I could do anything I want. I was like, oh God.
Right.
the mum was a little annoyed.
Yeah.
But
You can be anything you want unless it costs us money.
Listen to me
yeah, exactly.
Debbie, you have to listen now for 2 seconds. Before you have to go, I want to introduce you over the phone to somebody you really need to meet. Remember that beautiful song I wrote for you for your 30th wedding anniversary that we sang in Tuscany on the side of your building? Well, the guy who produced that and put it together under a deadline before your anniversary is right here in the studio right now. Please say hi to the wonderful, my brother, Mark Swirsky. Meet Debbie Travis.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Mark. Well, wow, that was the most incredible night when you did that, because when Helen played it, it was. I mean, well, I can't tell you how much it meant to me, but wow, thank you so much.
With your friend that you just mentioned, it was Philip Rambo.
Yeah, Philip.
Was talking about. And Steve put it all together, and he arranged the lighting, the umbrella, the sound, everything on the side of a hill in Tuscany. It was quite something.
Wow.
But Mark and Joey DeMaio from Shorefire, where we recorded it, were definitely with me in spirit because they pulled out all the stops, these two guys, that week.
Oh, you're part of Shorefire?
Wow.
I've been working out there for a long time.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right, Deb, we're going to move on a little bit now. So thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to call us. And we will be, hopefully we'll be seeing you
Friday.
soon.
I'm going to make Debbie come.
Can't wait.
I'm making Debbie
Can't
come.
wait.
You guys have to meet in person. This is just too amazing. You have to meet him.
All right,
I'll buy you a Guinness.
Whoa,
Okay.
whoa, price of poker just went
She
up.
must have
You know
heard
him very well.
Yeah, she must have heard him.
Bribery will get you everywhere. All right, Debbie, thank you so much. And
Cheers.
best of luck with the book. Rock on. There you go.
Thank you. All the best.
If you're just tuning in, this is Rock On Radio. I am your host, Danny Coleman. Engineer Art is here. Producer Claire is here. Helen O'Shea is there. Fiona Tyndall is there. And you are Mark
Swirsky.
Mark.
The wonderful Mark Swirsky, my brother from another mother.
There you go. All right, we got to get a microphone. Claire, can you push that closer to Fiona? There, number 2. So that she can, beautiful. And perfect. All right. Well, but while we're getting ourselves situated here and we start to get into this with Mark, Fiona, which, do you have her stuff too?
Mhm.
Okay. Which CD would you like us to play some of your stuff on?
How about playing something from Daring Day? It's a traditional Irish music CD, and a lot of the songs are in the Irish language. And of course, they're very old songs. They date back hundreds of years. And there were
I remember when
songs.
they were written.
They were passed.
I did.
Are you that old?
I am.
Oh,
Yes.
look at that.
That's the whole idea.
So they were passed on to me from my parents, and
Okay.
I really felt they ought to be documented because you don't hear them anymore. And I wanted to document them. And that's what that
So obviously
really is.
you speak Gaelic.
I do.
Okay.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't even want to know what I would have said the title of the
I
song.
know.
Oh, come on, give it a shot.
Would have been like, oh, Aaron, boy.
So
Okay,
one of the songs, I don't know what number it is. It's,
go ahead.
You're not going to find it. You'll
I'll
have to
find
pass
it.
it to me.
I have to speak
Yeah,
Gaelic.
That all agreed to me.
It's on Refco and Gary.
That's number 2. That's
Okay,
the
so
one
it's
we were
number
talking
2.
about offline about the
So-
master.
Okay.
It's a song, it's a code song, and I think it was in the 17th century, 1600s, when the Irish Catholics were prevented, or they couldn't practice their religion, and they had to say mass in secret. So they used to go into the woods and find a flat rock and say Mass there. And this song has, the first part of it is a question, and the second part is the answer. And if the answer is no, it was not safe for them to say Mass. If the answer was yes, it was safe for them to say Mass. So when you drive around Ireland, there are signs for the Mass Rock all over the place, and you can find these stones still. So the song was arranged for me by a friend of mine called Brendan Hayes from Portumna, who is a wonderful musician and a wonderful arranger of music. And I'm working with him at present on some new stuff, new music. But this is his arrangement of the song An Reftu Egan Garig, which means Were You at the Rock?
See, I knew that. No, not that, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. All right, this is Rock on Radio, and the song again is called
An Reftu Egan Garig.
Beautiful.
Close the door, I'm freezing.
Okay, you're good.
Couldn't pronounce that.
Come on, Danny, you can go.
I loved when you said give it a shot. That made my night right there.
Well, that's because art like.
So listen,
They love to mock me.
I'm very excited for you to meet this guy.
How are you, Mark?
That one never works.
Thank you for having me.
And that one's cold.
Thank you for making it.
The other week, last week, it was
So
in the basement.
Mark's artist I was talking
I'm not
about
going
earlier,
to turn and
Ashley
say.
DeLima, the girl that blew me away at Langosta. Like I'm in the middle of writing an article for Jay Lustig at NJR. So I couldn't decide from all the.
So I'm gonna say something to
this
Shar.
afternoon. But I
I knew the one year
like,
that Richie
the
was
text-
trying to freeze me
text
out.
I sent
Oh,
him
no.
was,
That's when that.
this girl
I
here.
will give you one, keep it back.
And like, I don't go to a lot of young people singing, right?
Those were for you.
So for somebody young, to impress
They
the
are good.
owner of Langosta like that.
I took one and they yelled
like
at
that, it's really special. Because I told him, the owner came out and said, oh, you didn't do such and such song, and Peter said, let's give her another song. That never happens at Langosta, right? It's just a testament to how great she was. But he has loads of other artists. I don't want to like take away from the
I'm
rest
here
of them.
to do whatever anybody wants me to do.
A lot of artists that come on this program have recorded it, Surefire.
I probably recorded a lot of it.
Did you see the new research that chocolate every
You
day
know
is?
that Joe
Good
Weiler,
everything.
he's Joe's guy
He's
for
healthy.
the recording.
Nick Joe,
I produced Joe's last record,
Chocolate's okay. Chocolate's good.
and I think I'm doing for next one. I think I am.
Liedersdorf did the first one.
He did the first one, yeah.
You did the second one.
You
Yeah.
did SLG.
Yes.
Yeah.
SOB, yeah.
I'm doing a concert.
Noticeably colder tomorrow. It's
And by the
noticeably
way,
colder
you
right
should
now.
know, I didn't tell you yet, Joe is doing an event with us in Festival February 17th, and the band is taking one of her songs from the record. No, this is No Time to Cry or
Yeah, no
something.
touch.
My band is doing an arrangement of that song to do with her. And it's called Shaniky's Session, so we invite two songwriters. We have them do two of their original songs acoustically, but then we have them give my band one of their originals and one cover that's their favorite. And my band learns them and they come and rehearse with us and we put the whole show together and it's fantastic. So she's going to be doing that with each other.
That's great.
Now, who's the Jody that you thanked at the beginning as a sponsor? Jody what?
Jody Weber.
I have a funny feeling that she already shared this event on Facebook because I don't know her, but I saw that somebody, Jody.
Yeah, if it gets changed, she's one of the people that would share it out right away.
And the second thing is, like the event on Friday, so the second thing is, you mentioned Lisa Coppola. I just met her, this
Did
is
you
just
really?
so serendipity. I just met her in January in New York at an indie collaborative girls' lunch.
Oh, yeah?
I'd never met her before, so there was 8 of us at this lunch, like talking
Yeah, about
music
30
and
seconds.
collaboration, and I met her.
Lisa, I love Lisa.
I never knew her before.
That's okay.
About 10 seconds.
All right, welcome back to Rock on Radio. That was Fiona Tyndall and a song that I can't pronounce. Yes!
Antigone.
Antigone, yes, it's Antigone.
We can't even pronounce Antigone.
There's a song
Just
that I-
another one to add to that long
There's
list.
a song that I sing, it's a Scottish Gaelic song, it's called Irawata, and my band members call it Firawata.
See, now I was thinking Hiawatha.
Yeah.
All right, wow. No, that's beautiful, actually.
Thank you.
Beautiful. You look so much in this picture. I had to look twice because you look so much like a woman that I know
Oh, really?
who was actually an author, believe it or not.
Oh.
And she's responsible actually for naming this program too.
Wow. Wow.
She was an author. She wrote a children's book. Can't remember what the name of it was. We had her on the show.
Don't look at me.
I'm gonna make you pronounce this stuff when we're done. But her name is Kimberly Sentek, actually. And she wrote, it's about her, she wrote it about her dog, Tugger and something, I think it was. But she named this program because I used to, talk about reinventing yourself. If you listen to this program, you know that I was a UPS driver for 20 years until my back gave out and I had to reinvent myself. Yes, the best I could do, Art. I know you're thinking that. We're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary in April.
I know it's coming up fast.
Yes, it
I
is.
hope you're doing a show, and I hope you have the band come and play it.
We're doing a show tentatively scheduled for April the 24th at the Asbury Hotel, actually.
Well, let me volunteer right now. The Shanakees, who are probably going to be on the show that month, will come support you.
Oh, in April, that's right. Because the Asbury Music Awards are the beginning of May this year, I'm told. So there won't be a conflict there.
Me and Danny
But,
Lucci.
yeah, that's me, Susan Lucci of the Asbury Music Awards. I had to reinvent myself. But while I was a UPS driver, I used to deliver to her building where she worked. And one of the guys in there I had befriended from delivering to him all the time, and he would have to be a musician, and he actually dragged me out of retirement. And it was with them that I did my first gig ever in Asbury Park. It was a Labor Day weekend at the Wonder Bar.
Wow.
So
You started big.
yeah, right. But what we did was she worked with him, and Kim would always say, "Oh, so you're gonna be playing with Mike?" Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Rock on." And at that time I'd see her, we walking down, but next thing you know, there's a half a dozen people in that building would just see me and go, "Rock on," and they would just keep on going. So when I started the radio program, I decided to name it Rock On Radio.
And it's a cool name, but what's really cool is if you don't have an aversion to folk or Gaelic or Americana.
Not anymore.
Americana.
Americana. I can't even figure out what Americana is.
Well, I make up my own definitions because I don't understand really, where it comes from. But Americana to me is stories of the American people. It really gets down to story songs. John Prine to me is one of the greatest storytellers, and I try to tell stories in my songs. The songs that Fiona sings are all story songs from back home. That's what it's all about. And I mean, even Mark's company, Monocentric Music, it's all about the song, right? That's why you named it.
Yep.
That's a Bullet Bob song. All about the song.
Yep.
Well, you know Bullet Bob?
Very well.
I love that man. I'm not
He's a good
ashamed
human.
to admit.
Good man.
There's no homophobia here. I love that man.
Okay, he's a good man.
Bullet Bob Liebner, Bullet Bob and the Colts. I'm surprised that John Cavallo was playing guitar for Joe Weimer yesterday. I was like, nice. All right, Mark, step on up to the mic. You're next.
Me?
Yes, you're next on The Torture Is Us.
Torture away. I'll take it.
So, how long have you been a producer? Well, you're a musician as well, right?
I think every I personally believe every songwriter or every producer starts out as a musician somewhere or another. It's all from a love of music. And yeah, I was I guess my big break came when I was 19 years old, and I was actually co-running a very big bar in Asbury Park called the Fast Lane.
Ah, yes.
And I was assistant manager there. And at that time, my teacher was the bass player in the Asbury Jukes, Gene Boscia.
Ah.
And
I know Gene.
Yeah, Gene's an amazing human being. And the long and short of it is that he, the Jukes were managed by this gentleman named Richard. The Jukes road manager was a gentleman named Richard Monnier. And Richard Monnier was also managing a couple acts in New York. And one of the acts he managed was a gentleman, was an artist named Charlie Midnight. And Charlie was signed to Billy Joel's record label at that time. And Charlie's band consisted of the who's who of New York, young New York session players. His bass player was a guy named Steve Buslow, who actually had just landed the gig to the then Meatloaf band when Meatloaf was going on the Bat Out of Hell tour. So Richard went to Gene and said, would you play bass in this band? Because the Jukes were going to be off the road for a year. And Gene said, no, I'm going to go play with this guy, Billy Falcon, who's another, he writes a lot with Bon Jovi, and he had a couple of hits back 100 years ago.
I remember them too.
Yeah. So,
Claire?
Yeah.
long and short of it is I walked in, Gene said, I have this young student. He was my teacher. Said, I think he'd be perfect for the gig. They asked me to do it, went up and did it, walked in the room, nearly crapped my pants because there's Joey Franco on drums from the Good Rats, legendary drummer.
Right.
These two other guys, guitar player and keyboard player, who both went on to be in Joe Cocker's band for years. And here's this little,
Jersey
a
boy.
little
Jersey
shit of a
boy.
19-year-old walking in the room. And I walked in and I started playing the songs, and Joey could tell I was nervous and took me under his wings right there. Long and short of it, I had no business getting the gig. By the time I got home, Charlie Midnight called me up and said, we want to offer you the gig. I was like, why? I literally said, why?
Have you been drinking?
No. And he said, because everybody just loved your spirit and your energy. Well, Charlie's not only is he's my best friend, he's also we call each other brothers. I introduced him to his wife and his child's godfather. We have gone on to have huge success as a writing team. And one time, I had the surgery on my eye. I had a corneal transplant, and I went to live with him in New York. And while I was living with him, he said, Mark, you would be a great songwriter. And I'm like, why? And he said, because you're one of the most gifted arrangers that I've been around. I said, that's interesting. So I used to have this this session group for hire, bass, drummer, guitar player, keyboard player, and people would hire us to do their demos. So one time I got hired to work with this young artist, a girl named Francesca Begay. And Francesca, we did the recording for her. And then after the session, she said to me, hey, do you write? And it was like, yes, harking back to Charlie. Well, we got together and we started, hanging out and getting to know each other. First time I went to sit down and write with her, this is the God's honest truth. The first song we wrote ended up on a Joe Cocker record, and had gone on. That record went triple platinum. And then that same song ended up on the Bodyguard soundtrack. And, I would definitely say I had beginner's luck. Long and short of it, I co-wrote the majority of her first record. We both signed our publishing deal together. And I just, never gave up being a musician. But at the same time, I morphed into being a songwriter. And then spent years doing that and having wonderful success as a songwriter. And constantly working with Charlie. We always work with each other, but I work with a lot of other people from all over the world, different songwriters, different projects. And production just came out of the next step of that, because all I ever care about is the song. I used to want to be the greatest bass player in the world. Now all I wanted to be is the greatest bass player for a song. I don't care about anything but the song. And then it became about, getting to work with lots of different artists from all over the world. I've traveled the world and produced artists from all over the world. Artists come here to work with me. And it's, the business has changed a lot. It's not the same business that it was. And, there was a time I'd like to say I was making stupid money for producing tracks for young pop artists. And it was a wonderful time, and all that stuff all goes together. But those days are gone, and now it's about I brought it all back and center focus to my company called Monocentric Music, and it's about just at the set that I like to say that music should come back to mono. It should come back to being there, because the music that everybody holds on to generally was made in mono. Stereo came out of a byproduct of technology. Mono was it. But mono is also about the center of a song, the center of an artist, the center of being everything it takes. And many years ago, I decided to form the company, and we've done very well. The company's myself, it's my wife, Brielle Brown, who handles. She's an amazing songwriter, tremendous songwriter, and she's also an amazing creative director. And she has visual visions that I have no clue where the heck they come from. And she drives all of that. And I just worry about the music.
Can she fix my hair?
Actually, she probably could. Actually, she's
creative with it.
She probably, not only probably she could, she probably already is doing it right now.
She's probably watching.
She's watching on YouTube.
Real.
She probably has a whole new wardrobe for the show on Friday.
Well, Friday again. There's Guinness there. So go ahead, Mark.
No, but so to me, I my greatest joy is I try to tell everybody is I'm a songwriter, I'm a producer, I'm a businessman, but I think more than anything, I'm a teacher. I'm a mentor / teacher. So I met Helen.
Yeah.
I have 3 or 4 artists signed to my company that I work with, and we work as a team. Everybody works as a team. It's about growth. This is a business of, if you think you're going to make it quickly, just walk out the door. Honestly, leave. If you think you're going to do this and do it on your own, walk out the door. It's just not meant to be that way. And you have to take the steps it takes to you're trying to build careers. I'm only interested in building careers. I don't, I'm not looking at somebody. If somebody comes to me and wants to be a pop star, great. How much money you have? I'm sorry to say that, because that's how hard it's going to be. You cannot do it like that. But if you want to build a great, strong grassroots career, the song has to come first. Your artistry has to come first. Your honesty and integrity has to come first. That's what I strive to find and build.
Which isn't easy to find in the music industry.
Actually, it's easier. It's easier. You know what, Danny? It's not easy to find on the business side, but it is easy to find on the artistic side if you provide.
The artistic side.
If you provide a forum for them, it's the old, Kevin Costner Field of Dreams. Build it and they'll come.
Right.
And that's just I strictly operate. Not myself, my wife, I have another couple partners, and we strictly operate underneath that guise. It's it. It doesn't, no more, no less. And somebody comes to me and they want me just to produce them, I'll just produce them. But if somebody comes to me and they want to take on the monocentric way, then we build it. And we take it slow and we build it. And right now I have a couple artists, as Helen nicely said about this young girl named Ashley DeLima, 19 or 20. She met her about a little over a year ago. Second I met this girl, I said, okay, you're beautiful, but you've got this fire in your eye. Fire. Yeah. And she was rawer than raw. I mean, as raw as an artist that I've come across in a long time. But myself and then my wife, we heard something in her. And she has chutzpah. This girl has got chutzpah. Oh, yeah. No fear, period. And, she has fantastic ideas for songs, visions. And she also had a fascinating story. She was born in America, but the rest of her family are dreamers. And she wanted to write a song for the Dreamers, and it's what launched her career. We put out a song about 8 months ago called "Stay in America," It did phenomenal for her. Garnered a lot of press across the country. And she wanted to write a song as a voice for the Dreamers, but it's bigger than that. It's a voice for anybody. It's a voice for anybody going through injustice. And this girl has a platform. She comes to us all the time. Her next single is going to be, she had a vision of a nuclear bomb going off. And it was about everything going on between, the US and North Korea. And she had this vision of it. And we turned it into this beautiful pop song. It's written as an acoustic song. Everything's done with an acoustic guitar or piano. Everything comes from that place. And then I take it off and produce whatever I have. But this is an artist that I firmly believe this time next year will be a household name. She's just a force of human nature, and what she has to say and what she has to say and how she wants to say it and how she does it is so wonderful.
We should probably get her in here
Oh, yeah.
before that happens.
Yep.
Because she won't be able to.
I'm posting her stuff on.
And then we could tell everybody we launched her career
Sure.
because Mark came on.
And she's a force of nature.
She really is.
And it's hard work. I have to remind her every day, you are not going to be a star tomorrow. We have to keep building this, and we have to keep making it better and making it better. And I've watched her, do 20 something shows now, but the last 3 have been what Helen saw.
Oh, the Lancaster.
Have just been this I still play with her. I get it because it's easier for me to do it at this point. And I sit on stage sometimes and go, really? Really? This is happening right now? Because you watch everybody's mouths just drop from this girl.
You can't, like, she locks on you. Like, I left Lancaster with Mark's brother Alan, because we had to go back down to the Wonder Bar as soon as she was done. And like, I was just trying to express to myself, I don't even have any words. I don't know what happened in that room. Now, I'm an old woman. It takes an awful lot to impress me. If John Prine walks down the street in Asbury Park, Bruce maybe, but I walked out of that place and I was impressed, let me tell you, to the point where I never, for Jay Lustig, would write an article about, anything less than a big event, or, you know what I mean? That's what I usually write for, and you write for him too, so you understand. But I walked out of there, I was like, this was so life-changing. I know it was 4 songs, it was only supposed to be 3, but I have written a whole piece that I'm going to send to Jay tonight when we're done here, just because this woman moved me so much. And no disrespect to Mark, but I already told Danny, Mark disappeared, and he's a great friend of mine. So for him to disappear out of my view, and the guy with the box disappeared out of my view, and then the next thing, it's like this tornado coming at you, and you know that something special is happening, and you're part of it. And then when the owner of Lancaster, I don't remember his name, but he's a lovely guy, he comes on, he goes, "You're done? You can't be done." And Peter goes, "Okay, do one more song." And what does she launch into? That unbelievable combo.
We put actually my wife's idea.
Well,
my wife said,
good woman Brielle.
My wife said, that song by NXS, Devil Inside? I'm like, yeah. And she said, can you work up an arrangement for Ashley with that? And I was like, okay. And Ashley ended up loving it, and we put together a very left of center arrangement of it. And then we morphed Satisfaction by the Stones into it. So,
it was unreal. And it,
and Danny's going, how?
But a great mashup is when you're halfway through the first verse and you know the song, but you cannot place it. That's what happened with that. Yeah. And she took that and she ran with it. She reminded me of a cowboy on a horse that's running wild, and she has a lasso, and she's like standing there going, "I'm going to fix this. You guys don't need to worry." And she's 19 years old. I can't even, So. But I do want you to play one of the songs that Mark produced, because he produced the whole album and he co-wrote 6 of the songs. And I would like Mark to pick the one. I think I might know the one you might pick because of the special arrangement. And I would love him to choose one for the arrangement and production and what went into it.
No Return.
Okay, is that the one? Well, I don't want you to play that one because I'll tell you why. Danny, you're laughing. You can whatever you want. There's 2 reasons why. One is because I wrote that one by myself and I want to play one that we wrote
I don't
together.
care.
But don't you like Aftermath, or is it too sad?
Oh, I love Aftermath.
But what he did with Aftermath was so, that blew my mind. The day I left that writing, can I tell him the story?
You told whatever you want. You're gonna do it anyway.
Okay, so let me rewind. I first song I wrote on my own. So that's huge. I didn't even know you liked that. Oh my God, that's great. Now he made my night. But the thing with the aftermath, Danny, my dad was killed in a car crash. Now my dad was, oh my God, my best friend, my rock, my center of my universe. And that day was awful. So from when I first met Mark, I knew I was going to write a song about that day. And I will go on and write a better song about my father, of who he was. But that day just changed my life so in such a bad way. But the thing I want you to know about Mark Swirsky is I remember it was a Sunday in June. We were down, he has this gorgeous writing room in the building where he lives. It's just beautiful. It's very inspiring, actually, that writing room. And I was sitting there going, okay, Mark, it's time to do the song for my father. We sat there for 3 hours that afternoon, and he took rudimentary verses that I had. He didn't change any of the lyrics. He's very respectful of his songwriter's lyrics. He doesn't change them. But he changed the vibe and the feel of the song so much that I think absolutely it has to be played with you here, because we don't often get to do stuff like this together. But the thing I want you to know about Mark Swirsky is I found out from his brother later that night that the day that we sat there for 3 hours was your dad's anniversary. And he never told me. And he sat there watching me cry and fall apart and be like, I don't want to say a woman, but a person who's like open wide, bawling my eyes out about my dad. This man sat there for 3 hours on the anniversary of his own father's passing and never said a word to me. This is the kind of guy he is. He is my co-writer. He is my producer. He is my arranger. He is my mentor. And above all and everything else, he is my friend. He's my brother for life.
Well, that's huge, because a lot of other guys in the music industry would have let her do the same because she was on the clock. The fact that you didn't is very, very noble.
I know that. Well, A, number one, I never look at my watch. I get yelled at for it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
B, number two, it's got nothing to do with me. I think that's what a great producer should do. It's never about you. You're never looking at the watch. You're paying attention to, if they're rawer than raw, you want to make sure they stay rawer than raw. You never want to pull them out of that moment. And I know a lot of producers who make it about themselves. They have every right to do that if they want to, but to me, it's not about that. I'm there to keep pulling. It's like,
He's like a midwife.
This is like a midwife.
This is the girl who lived in obstetrics for so long, but seriously, he delivers the song out of you. But there's one other thing I have to tell you. This is funny about the same song, and I'm not going to mention which instrument.
Is that the one we're going to play, Aftermath?
Yeah.
Track 5, Art.
But listen, before you do it, Art, you have to hear this. This blew my mind. This was when I really knew that he was never going to get rid of me. So first of all, Leo Sauken from the Cordays does background vocals on this. Mark made that happen. So shout out to Leo. That was awesome of you. It changed the record. But the funny thing I want to tell them, I hope you don't mind, I'm not going to say which instrument. So there's 1,000 instruments on this record that are layered in ways that you could not even believe. Like my husband, who was in the studio at the time, said, it's like watching someone paint a picture. You don't know what he's going to do. There's no charts. I hope you don't mind me saying this. No charts. Vinny Mascolo, come over here. Vinny, here's what I want on the guitar. And I'm like, okay, this is really going to work. Vinny goes in and does exactly what Mark has in his head, right? Same with Steve Holly, who is the drummer, the guy who plays with Paul McCartney, who's a great friend of Mark's. And I don't know who else we have.
Steve put tracks down on this?
Oh, yeah, he's on most of them.
He plays with the Criers, too.
And he played, who's he out with, Matt the Hoople right now?
He's Ian Hunter. He's been Ian Hunter's drummer for 15 years.
But anyway,
he's a dear friend.
He's a great friend of his, which means I get to have him on my record. Yay, Steve Holly, I love you. But
he plays a 67 Ludwig kit when he goes on the road, too.
Yes, he does.
See, Danny's a drummer. Danny knows all that stuff. But the funniest thing happened, and me and Joe DeMaio from Surefire. How you doing, Joe? All those wonderful moments we had in the studio, and Fiona too works at Surefire. But Joe and I were like looking in the window and into, you know how the studio goes down, Mark? So there was one particular musician, and I'm sure the musician doesn't even know this, who came in to do their part on the record and maybe hadn't worked that much with you before.
He never worked with me once.
Okay,
before.
Don't say any names and don't say the instrument because I don't want to get in trouble. So the person came in.
Why not?
Stop. The person came in and they're down there, him and Mark, right? And he come in with sheet music and he had notes written out and everything. And I was like, oh my God. So he goes down and I had hired him for an hour. It was a short part, in and out in an hour. Mark said, in and out in an hour. I ended up having to pay him for 2 hours because it took 2 hours. And what took 2 hours was not the part. It took 2 hours for Mark to get him to do what Mark already knew he was supposed to do before he came in and make the person feel like it was their idea when they left. This is the kind of guy you want to work with.
Danny, you would know who the guy is.
Don't say it. Don't
You
say
know
it.
what, while we
Let's
while we
get
play
on
this, you can tell me. All right, this is
a legend.
also from Turning Tides. Boy, did that 2 hours get away from us. It is 20 minutes. We got about 20 minutes to show that. We didn't even offer to give one of these away. 609-241-7103. If you want to give us a call, we will give you a copy of Helen's disc, and she brought some download cards. And just the only two we have of yours.
No,
She brought more.
You brought two more?
yeah.
Oh, we could throw in. We give you the whole CD thing here. You own the Tyndall. What else should we give away? Might you pay? Maybe. All right. This is Helen O'Shea and her song called
It's for Joe McNamara, Aftermath.
Rock on Radio.
I didn't know you liked Nora Turner.
I love those people. Gary Maserati.
Gary who?
Maserati. Tal Farlow's bass player was legendary acoustic bass player.
Fabulous. He plays
Maybe.
beautifully.
I mean,
But he knew what he
listen,
wanted.
I wanted him to play, but I wanted him to play double bass, and he came out there and
He had like notes
Yeah, he-
written down.
he thought he thought he was
Here's
going
my
to do
part.
something. You don't tell Gary Maserati what to do.
It was.
You don't hire
it was
somebody like that and tell
art.
him what to do.
If you could watch somebody
Convince
maneuver
him that that's
somebody
not what he
over
wanted to
2
do.
hours, he made him do something completely different and made him think. He's like, that was such a good idea that you had. As the guy is walking out, I'm like, Joe, Joe, get over here. Is this really happening in front of my eyes? Joe says he does that all the time.
I didn't know. I didn't realize you worked there too. That's your job.
Okay, shut
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
While you're full of chocolate, I wanted
He
to
does
tell
that.
him about the.
Like a waiter at a
Tell him about the
restaurant.
project with the girls, while you're eating. So while her mouth is full of chocolate, she's going to have a fantastic project coming up where she took 2 of her 3 daughters in like ensemble sounds together, and they are out of this world. I've only seen them do like 3 or 4 of them live, but she has the 2 girls in there with her, and they harmonize against each other and their voices blend. And you've got to get that project out. People need to hear that. You know? The Tyndall effect, isn't it? It's called.
Tyndall.
You need some water.
No,
Because they're all
because
Tyndalls.
we're Tyndalls, yeah, so we call it the Tyndall effect. But we don't have a lot of time together because they're all traveling. They're in college and they went over to Dublin to college. And they're moving all the time.
Where are they going to Dublin?
Trinity.
Are they going to Trinity?
Yeah, well, 2 of them went to Trinity, one of them went to Shannon.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a friend whose daughter is over there now, but she's staying 6 months in Belfast, in some school in Belfast.
Queens? Queens?
Queens College.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think I'm doing so many different projects that sometimes I find it hard to help them every year. Focus, So,
I feel your
and
pain.
the other thing is, kind of, I don't, for me, it's like living. I like these projects. I don't want them all to be done. I do them slowly and I enjoy them. I enjoy life, I think that's what it is. I look forward to them.
That's
I go
huge.
home. Yeah, it's really what I enjoy. So it's not something I want to just hurry and
That's
go
tough.
Attention. I'll get to it.
I did. I had to. I started this radio show 10 years ago because my back gave out. Out of the blue, and thought, well, where can I turn? And I had gone to broadcasting school. I took a year off after high school. I was working for Dow Jones in South London.
I'm not a bad guy.
And I went to broadcasting school, but they couldn't pay me what I was making at Dow Jones. It was only part-time, it was benefits. It was like, I was only
About
20
20
years old.
seconds.
Right.
But then I wound up turning back to it,
Yeah.
30 years later or whatever. Actually, 30, this show's gonna be 10, so
Nice.
close.
Great. Yeah. Great. You could turn back to it.
Now if we're gonna figure out a way to monetize it, I'd be in better shape.
I need to tell Art something.
Art.
That's right, I do what I enjoy. though.
Yeah.
Let it go to the end. Stop. Don't. Stop. Let it. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Whoa. Just one bell tolling at the end.
Oh, one bell is all you need if you do it right, Danny.
Wow, you hear that?
I'm on fire
Four.
tonight.
I'm afraid. I'm still lost at the Guinness. You know, I was in Galway City. Okay, one of the greatest things I like about their country, their home country, was I was in Galway City, and I went into, I can't remember why, I was by myself. The rest of the group went one way, I was this way. Probably because I had to find a bathroom or something. I go into this bar, and I thought, well, I got a shot. So I said to the two young ladies behind the bar, I said, can I have a half and half? And they immediately pour me a Smittix and you know,
Harp.
no,
Guinness.
Guinness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I want half harp, half Guinness. I never heard of such a thing. No, sorry, I didn't mean to insult you, but she was like annoyed. And I was like, okay then, I'll take that, and you can make me one. I was in a little bar there. Imagine all my Ireland stories start with that. A little bar.
All your American stories do too,
Actually, I
actually.
thought both of your stories.
All your stories start with a bar.
What's that thing that I saw on Facebook? Because no good story ever started with. So I was having a salad. But there was a little bar in Carlingford, and I befriended this old fisherman. And it's just him and I and my buddy, and we're sitting there, and then our families came in and joined us. But I stayed at the bar with this guy because we were in the middle of a conversation. And he looks at me, and this guy had the absolute bluest eyes I've ever seen in my life. I mean, like piercing blue. I thought he was an alien at first. That could have been a Guinness too.
That could
But-
be.
So I said, so we're sitting there, and the woman behind the bar, she had walked away, and it's just him and I. And he looks at me and says, "You want another Guinness?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay." He reaches up, he pulls a tap. He says, "Can you see?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, tell me when." That's the first time I ever combo poured a Guinness. We got two of them. She comes back, and we're sitting there, and she looks at me and he says, "So you helped yourself again." His name was Paul. He was an oyster harvester. Actually.
Oh.
Oyster fisherman.
Well, they don't call it Ireland of the Thousand Welcomes for no reason, you know. There's a reason.
I loved it. I had a blast. I
But
really did.
you know that Galway was where I went to college. Medical school for me was Galway. That's where I also
Oh,
met my husband
okay.
in Galway.
Nice.
Just as I was leaving, he was coming back to do a PhD in chemistry. And we overlapped for like 2 months. And then 33 years later, here we are in Princeton.
Fell in love.
Nice.
See that?
I fell in love. God
It
help
happens.
him, poor man. I have such pity for him.
My drum. How do you say it?
Baron.
Balrog.
Baron.
Baron.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I got that in Sligo.
Oh,
which
right,
I guess
right.
that's, you know.
Do you take it out
unfortunately,
and play it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But poorly. Because it's like, you know, you got to hold the beater like a. And
It's like a pencil.
Kinda like a
You hold it
pencil, yeah.
pencil, yeah. And you have to be careful of your wrist.
with
You
your
like-
wrist.
Yeah.
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 So
You're the teacher.
Yeah.
somebody has to teach.
I'll give you a class.
She's really good. Just saying, she's our Baron player in
You
Shenanigans.
know how to play one?
Oh,
Yeah,
she's
I play
fantastic. As well as singing in Shenanigans, she's the Baron player. Keeps all the boys in line.
I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Keep timing.
With the beater.
Yeah.
So, Danny, there's a couple of people I need to shout out to about the event on Friday. You know, the guests I was telling you about earlier, the people that are going to be coming to join. Debbie and myself, of course. Fiona is going to be part of the music and part of the evening. And the other person who's part of that musical event, who was hoping to be here tonight, but she couldn't because sadly her daughter's not feeling well. Jackie, I hope you feel better. We're sending you healing blessings from here. But Barbara Esposito Paskin will be playing guitar and singing with us. Now, Barbara is the third member of the girl trio that's part of the 9-piece Shenanigans. So it's just the girls on our own for this empowerment thing on Friday. And then the other guests that we have coming, really happy to have them. Maria McKeown runs Mary's Place by the Sea down in Ocean Grove, where they offer, respite to women who are going through cancer treatment. It's an amazing program. What they do is unreal. So Maria is going to come up on Friday because, in her own words, she said, who needs to design the next chapter or navigate turning tides more than somebody who's been through treatment or is going through treatment and now has to plan a new life beyond that, because obviously it changes you in so many ways. So Maria's coming. Then we have Susan Rose. Susan Rose is a wonderful woman that I've done some work for in the past. Sadly, Susan lost her daughter, like I did my father, in a car crash in Spain. And she wanted to honor her in some way, so she created the Lauren Rose Legacy Foundation. And when I found out that her daughter's name was Lauren and my daughter's name was Lauren, she's the one that we raised the funds for at the EP release, remember, way back in 2016. But Susan went from her life in politics to suddenly change her whole existence to create this foundation in honor of her daughter. And what they do is so cool. They make gift baskets full of, you know, the kind of toiletries that we take for granted, like, you know, shower gel, shampoo, perfume, things that, you know, women on food stamps can't necessarily afford because they have to feed their families, or, you know, for women in prison or women in hospital or women going through, again, cancer treatment. And they get funding and corporate donors. And they also have, like, when I was a coach at Girls on the Run, I had my girls do it as a project, you know, to put the bags together for them. And they bring those bags to all the hospitals in the New Jersey and, you know, PA area. And she has a huge number of wonderful volunteers working for her. So she's coming to talk about her own, like, personal journey as well as what she does for women. And then we have two other guests. It's interesting that Debbie mentioned the bakery. I have a great friend in Princeton, and so does Fiona, called Jennifer Carson. And Jennifer was in the corporate world and she always wanted to be a baker. And 2 years ago, she took the plunge and she created Lily Pie's Bakery in Princeton, where everything is sourced from, you know, the farm to table. She uses local produce, local coffee, everything is local. She sells my CD in the shop. She plays my CD and Fiona's CDs whenever we go in for coffee. Suddenly the playlist changes. Like, okay, we're going to have all our meetings here and we're going to stay here for 2 hours. I do every music meeting I have there. I make them meet me at Lily Pie's because it helps her business.
Where's that located?
Princeton Shopping Center. And when you come to Princeton, I'll take you there as my treat, because you need to meet Jennifer Carson. So she's going to come and, like, let Princeton women know, you know, I have a couple of questions they all have to answer, but basically she's done it. She's a Princeton woman. I've done it. And then the last but not least, of course, is the exuberant and wonderful and inspirational, and one of my great friends, Mimi from Princeton Tour, because Mimi also had a different life in a different state and moved to Princeton for her own private reasons and created out of nothing the Princeton Tour Company, which is a huge success and one of the landmarks really in Princeton. They do fantastic work, they do great jobs, and she's very heavily involved in the community and making the community better, and she's a great friend of mine. So what's better than getting all your friends together on a Friday night in Princeton to inspire other women and then go drinking afterwards?
Nothing.
Back to the bar.
I can't think of anything.
I would love
If he
to.
comes on the tour bus, you should come with him.
I would come on my own even without. But I'm actually taking my daughter. I'm taking my daughter to Albany for a college visit. I visit. She's got an
Oh, that's
audition.
important, because, you know, family first. That's
Mhm.
one thing you find between
I'm
Debbie and
Maura.
I, and also Mark and I. We've often said in the studio, kids come first, kids come first, kids come first. But are you back on Sunday night? I'm asking for a reason.
I'm always here Sunday night.
Oh, you're going to be here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. No offense.
No.
But I did want to
Is there
say,
something better in Sunday
and you-
night?
I'm just getting hosed out of this entire deal.
I like this.
I'm
Wait,
just sorry.
where else should I be
No,
Sunday
no,
night?
I'm
All right,
just
Shay.
gonna say one thing, Paul, I'm just
Stealing
gonna
your
say one thing.
producer.
I gotta tell him, like, everybody should listen to Rock on Radio every Sunday night, because I do. I call him from the car all the time. When I'm even lost, I call him. It's a fantastic show.
Especially.
That's a true
next,
statement.
but I'm just going to say next. Yeah,
I'm
so
lost
remember,
all the
the night of Mike Montre, I was like lost somewhere in East Brunswick when I called in. I love Mike Montre, by the way. But the thing is, on Sunday night, and this is the first time we're announcing this. It isn't even up because it's a kind of a very exclusive thing. We're going to do a fundraiser directly for Mary's Place by the Sea on Sunday night. It's going to be at my home. It's a $25 ticket. We're only putting 20 tickets up on Eventbrite to raise specifically $500 for Mary's Place by the Sea, because that covers one woman's journey there. So that will be sent out.
What time?
It's called, well, interesting you should ask. It's between 5 and 7, and I'll tell you why. Because Debbie and I are both from Montreal. and we wanted to do what's called a Sanka set. But I will tell you, the first time I tried to do a Sanka set in Princeton, nobody knew what it was. So for people who don't speak French, Sanka set is 5 to 7. You come, you get Prosecco, you get wine, you get cheese, you get grapes, and whatever else we can rustle up.
Maybe it won't be there in time.
And then you get to chat with Debbie Travis about maybe going to Tuscany and figuring out your next chapter. And I would ask Danny, I have to beg. No, she has 2 drivers. Her husband, wait to hear this. You gotta hear this, Danny. You gotta hear this. The 2 drivers and the general dog's bodies, because she bosses them around all the time, are Hans Rosenstein, the producer of all of the shows she's ever been in, a very big shot she makes him a very little shot in Tuscany. She tells him everything to do, and she makes them wear little hats and everything. The women love it. And the other one is Steve Brown, the great producer who, is from London, a music producer who Steve Brown. So Steve Brown drives the bus. But the one thing I want to ask you to do in 3 minutes before we leave is don't laugh. We don't have time for laughter. There's a song on the CD that I wrote for Debbie and Hans for her 30th wedding anniversary that Mark produced. And if we have time, it's less than 3 minutes. It's the shortest song on the record, and it's called When Love Is True. And I wrote it for the 2 of them about their life. And I just think if we have time, even to play a little bit of it for Debbie and Hans, I would be over the moon.
Well, no, let's see how much time we have. Well, we got 4 minutes left. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We will go out on that. And then, Fiona, is there something else you would like us to play of yours?
Let me take a look.
Oh, okay.
And while you're looking, tell me about your next shows, Fiona.
I do. I have a show called Shamrock and Thistle, and
You just did that at the
dates and times.
1867 section.
Yeah, Hopewell. Yeah, we're going to do it in Hopewell on the 2nd of March.
Where?
In the Methodist Church in Hopewell.
Yeah. I gave there.
8 o'clock. It's a lovely place. And there's a Burns supper in the Ryland Inn in Whitehorse Station. I'm entertaining there this Thursday evening. That will be a lovely event. I believe you have to go on the website and book dinner. And March will be busy with shenanigans.
Yeah, we've got the 10th and the 16th. And I have to say, I almost forgot, I got permission from Scott at the Saint to give you a teaser that happened yesterday while you were there with me. On St. Patrick's Day, Scott and I are planning a huge shindig in the afternoon at the Saint between 2 and 5, and details coming soon. And he gave me permission to tell you that.
Totally detrimental.
You have to be there. Listen, I'm parking myself at the bar at the Saint.
Yeah, he's got to be here though. He's got to be halfway decent.
We'll be done by 5. I'll put him in an Uber.
Uber!
We have a driver for you.
Track 1 off of this disc?
Track 1, right?
Track 1 off of this disc. Can we play that immediately following Helen's?
You got 3 minutes.
Well, I mean, just after we go off the air.
You won't have time. You have 3 minutes.
I know that. Well, we're going to play them both at the end of the show. That's what I'm saying. You know how we do that, Art.
No, tell me.
2 seconds or less.
So, which is it?
Play Debbie's song. Play the song for Debbie. We'll be back with Fiona again.
Here's what we're going to do. I'll tell you what. When the program's over, we're going to play this song off of the Helen's disc, Turning Tides, which is called When Love Is True. That's track 9.
I have that cued.
Good, because that's what we're going to do. And then we'll track 1 of Fiona's disc when you're done there.
And then he keeps
With
us
her.
all happy.
And then everybody's happy.
Everyone's happy.
And our
Isn't that
listeners
Daddy?
are happy.
But you have to have Fiona back.
My engineer's not happy. No, when we're done, we'll go out. Mark, thank you for making the trip and hanging out
My
with us
pleasure.
for the last hour.
My pleasure.
Helen, thank you for bailing me out.
Well, thank you for working so well with me. This has been going on since 2 o'clock. I haven't eaten or washed myself, but we had a great show. Thank you very much for having us. And Joe Weimer, you rock, my friend. You are my inspiration. You are my queen.
Mine too. Yeah, we have. Yeah. If I had a queen, it would be Joe Weimer.
Sure.
Fiona, thank you
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Helen, thank you for bringing me
You're
along.
very welcome.
Thank you.
That's what she
Always a
said
pleasure.
publicly. Let's see what
Always a
happens
pleasure.
privately.
Always a pleasure.
We have next week, I know the week after, at Super Bowl Sunday, we will have Janet Rothstein here from Cafe Artiste.
Nice.
But it escapes me who's coming on next week.
It might be Joe Weimer, if she's better.
Joe will be coming on, I guess we have to reschedule something. The show is booked into April, actually. We've got a couple dates in April.
I think we're coming with the band somewhere in April or May, right?
Yes, we have to decide what date that is. But again, thank you, everybody. for
Thank you
making the
so
trip.
much,
Thank you
It's
for
been so
tuning
much
in.
fun.
Good, I'm glad everybody had fun. Did you have fun?
I always have fun.
I can tell. You're just overwhelming me with
So
your
I
fun.
come back every week.
Art's not having fun right now. He's like, what the heck is Dana saying? This was Rock On Radio. We do it because nobody else wants to. No.
Because we love it.
No, because we love to support indie artists and for no other reason. Musician to musician, we love it. So until next week, rock on!
Oh my gosh, that went fast.
It did, Lou. Oh, it does. Lou.
Yeah.
I gave you the disc.
I got one CD player, Daddy. You're not supposed to.
Oh, I
End
thought
the
you-
song, flip the new one in.
I thought you took it. I thought you had the other one.
I'm good. Huh?
That's about the other one on the computer.
We're all.
2 years ago.
Okay. Well, when-
That's why I was looking at
And
you.
I don't do you have a website
Oh,
too?
okay, that's fine.
Okay, we need to get some pictures before.
That's all right, I play this
we go,
stuff
so I
Yes.
have to stay in here.
Actually,
You know what I mean? Like I
We do,
play a lot of music in between shows now.
we do it too.
Good.
Want to get pictures, Art?
No.
Well, we've nearly finished the box of chocolates.
Mark, where did you come from? Where are you originating from?
Where do I come from?
Thank you
Right now I live in
so much.
Eatontown.
That was
Yeah.
too much fun. That was
Yeah.
too much fun.
Oh, no, just 40 minutes.
Goes fast, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh. It's just like you can't
It's a
get
straight
there.
shot, just 537
Archie, you wanna
to 33. It's a straight
pictures?
shot.
Where's Eatontown? Was it near the shore? Is it down
Yeah,
near the
it's
shore?
by Monmouth Mall.
My mom's mom.
Oh, yeah,
Mall.
Yeah.
okay.
I used to work on Industrial Way West.
Yeah. I grew up in, actually, when I was 12, grew up in Ocean Township.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's went to high school and everything.
Okay.
So you have a
Yeah, it was
copy for
Marlboro,
yourself,
so-
that's yours,
Okay.
right?
Okay,
Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah.
Will
do
I
that.
give you a
Yeah, there's-
download card?
Yeah.
So I want you to give you a couple
But,
to.
It's a pleasure coming in.
use for
Yeah, thanks for coming. It was awesome.
Beautiful.
And then I have another CD.
Nice meeting the nice ladies.
So there's one in there, one here, and one there.
Nice.
Just give me a second before we take this picture. 'Cause
Oh, yeah, you're
I
doing that? Yeah, yeah. I just know Mark might have to leave, so I didn't want to.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. All right, it's like
Everybody else
a,
said you need your own talk show.
No. I leave that to the pros. Ah. Are you exhausted after that? I'm wrecked.
I didn't have to do anything. She took over.
Don't say that. My father would kill me.
And you want to see Helen quiet?
yeah, exactly.
Put her in the studio with me. She's quiet as she's just like this,
Really?
That's true. That's true.
like
Never
this.
seen her quiet.
Completely and utterly quiet.
True.
Completely and
I
utterly
get
quiet.
completely into it.
There you go, Mark. Have a refrigerator magnet and a pen. That's your fabulous party.
You
gift.
probably need two because you have twins.
He has twins?
Yeah.
Where?
I live in your studio. Oh, yeah.
I'm actually not based from Shorefire.
That's Fiona's.
No, not Shorefire. To you.
One of those is hers.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
Mark.
that's true. Sorry.
Yes, I don't. I
More,
just
more.
where I live, I have
Yeah.
a clubhouse.
That's
that
what
I
I
go,
mean.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
My pleasure. My
I
pleasure.
have to go back to Shorefire.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
That's on hold, but I just gotta get.
but no, just yeah, just I will be happy to do it. I know you have a beautiful voice, so I've heard your voice is beautiful, and I am a
What I'll do
huge
is,
fan of Gallic music.
when I do the thing, I'll add
Yeah.
that song to the
Yeah,
end of that.
I
So when we
often
send it
I
out
think this
to
is
the
another radio
affiliates.
Helen and I bond. I've had many
Doesn't
friends
matter.
of mine
It's
who
past 2 hours
work
anyway.
Irish.
I don't
So
care.
artists
Oh, yeah.
specifically, who have all said, I must in a
Have
past
some-
life
Yeah.
come from
Yeah.
Ireland.
Oh,
Yeah, Ireland or Scotland, I must have a past life code from there because it's like,
You're hooked.
it's ingrained, like my favorite artist of all time is Van Morrison.
No, I would love to come help.
Wait, just my favorite artist of all
But I
time.
am bringing my daughter, she's going for music.
I mean, I don't think I would do, if it wasn't for Van Morrison, I would do songwriting.
And even
Next
next
morning.
morning, she's so, she's
Yep.
so,
Yes,
remember.
yeah.
he's
Oh,
just
she's vocal,
no-
but she's
from
she's
anybody.
strong.
Yeah.
If anybody, you know, listen to him, he's impressive.
And I have many songs out there that are.
I'm always impressed, actually, I
The
work.
gentleman I mentioned, Charlie Midnight, he and I, that's, was our bond, Van Morrison was our bond. And we, whenever we get together, it doesn't make a difference what we do, we have to write another band type song. Yeah, and it's all, everything, music, melody, lyrics, or stream of consciousness, it just happens.
Have you recorded your own?
I'm not a singer. I can sing good enough to write melodies.
Right, I was
Planet
And everything else, but I.
Yeah.
But Charlie and I have a project.
This is Helen's,
It's just,
and she'd like to take on
from all the
square,
pop
so you can
artists
take
I've
a
been
copy of
working
hers.
with, it's called Hotel Blue. And what the project is that we sit down, if it takes more than a half hour to write music, melody, and lyrics, we throw the song out. It has to all happen in a half hour, we put a timer on it.
Wow.
Yeah, and most of the time what happens is he just hands me poetry, and I turn it into a song. And
Is that going with your first reaction kind of sort of?
I am, honestly, I am completely a visceral songwriter. I do not mess around with it. I think that you can always come back and edit your song, but you must go with your initial gut reaction.
I firmly believe that in a lot of different things.
But I, you know, for me, it's what always works. Like anything I've had big success with in my life has always been not what I think about it. It just comes from, it just comes. I always just say it's a divine thing. It just happens. And it's just, I don't, and I'm trying, I have some young artists that I'm working with now, and I'm actually trying to teach them that. And Helen loves one of them specifically, is a band called the Cordays. And there's this young writer named Leo Sawicki, and this kid's a genius, actually. But I finally have taught him after 4 years.
But you don't see a lot of that.
Because they're, you know why? Because people are fearing. They fear the unknown. They have to try to think so hard about it. I preach to not think about it. You can always edit. Editing is easy, but that burst, just run with
You're
it.
gonna do as well on anything.
What?
You're gonna be as well on anything. You're gonna talk yourself out of stuff, man.
But there's some people that have to do it, and I respect it. I don't. What?
I hate this photo. Someone needs to take this photo, because I haven't been to the bathroom since 5 o'clock.
I don't.
So I'm gonna have an accident right here if we don't take a picture.
I don't,
You can go right next door.
first.
No, because you don't know when it's first, if I go, you could be.
Hey, it's a daycare, we have some.
We won't let him know.
Depends.
That's Helen's right there.
So Art, you can take one square on my phone, we can
Can
use
you
it
love it in there?
to,
Oh, thank you, yes,
we
that's
can
good.
use it for,
Oh, good, we'll pop the colors, there we go.
you're very far away from me.
I haven't gone in yet.
Oh, you haven't got in yet?
My phone.
My phone.
The art phone.
Art, can I take one with you in it, Art?
Sure.
I'll take one.
This is that portrait.
By the way, I love your sweatshirt. I love your sweatshirt.
Art knows the angles.
The city of angles.
Oh,
my
my.
My daughter got a new phone and gave me her old phone, and this has this like portrait setting on it, which is really nice.
You
But
can
it's
do
like
3D,
you're all close.
but then you can do 3D with the portrait setting, which is
Oh
kind
my
of cool.
God, you guys.
Yeah, so I look
So
like I can be.
you get in, Art, I'll take a picture of yourself.
Oh, Art, come into the picture. Go
Go
fixing the photograph. Do it on square.
It is. Hasn't changed.
Okay. I'm so bossy.
Yes, you are, that's okay.
I know.
But I'm a photographer, so it doesn't matter.
They don't listen.
Here, you're gonna need to stand back here, because I use that portrait, because it comes out really good,
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
but it gives it a depth.
He's the gift that keeps on giving. This guy.
All right, I'm doing squares for Helen. Okay. Okay, now, I'm doing portrait from back
Look at
here.
that, amazing. What a team you have here. This is so cool.
Alright, alright.
So I gotta have the big phone on hold.
Oh my gosh, get it on like
Ooh.
major. Hold on. You're zooming. Now I don't have my glasses on, sorry.
All right, she's like
I
you,
hope
man.
it's in focus.
She's clicking 1,000 times.
I'm
Just
saying
hold
more.
it down.
Come on, I couldn't be reversed, you know?
Oh, this is who this is
See you
City of
later.
Angels.
Do they sell them?
Hmm? I need to reorder.
He's a merch man.
What do you do?
I need to, these are, I think, 420 for the photos. What
What
size? Yeah.
I would say large.
I have to order. I don't think I have any of either size right
What
now.
size are you wearing right now?
This is an extra large.
It's over there.
I would need that. You order one for me?
I have to order them, period. This is
No,
how
but
we make our
seriously,
money.
just send me how much they are, and I want one. I really like it. Finally, finally we got together. Finally, I'm so happy.
And I didn't realize it was you at the same yesterday. I didn't realize until it's picture.
We go, wow, I said,
I was like,
When I was
oh.
bossing
I
around
know.
yesterday to say, go take this picture, take this picture.
I was like, all right.
I was nervous tonight though because of like Debbie and the whole event and making sure
Yeah,
that
no,
it was
of
early, you
course.
know. But it's just us. Easy, all right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, she showed us again.